traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes. Let's look at some of our top stories. We've got a big change in the weather today with rain and temperatures about 20 degrees cooler than yesterday. National Weather Service lead meteorologist Christine Cruz says the storm will calm down a bit this afternoon, but will pick up a lot more tonight.
Then we're looking at a cold front that's going to move through somewhere 6 to 8 p.m., maybe a little bit later than that. And that's when you'll see that really heavy burst of precipitation.
The mountains south of I-80 could see up to 16 inches of snow, while the Cottonwoods and the western Uintas could see even more. The valleys predominantly south of Ogden could register a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain. People living near the Yellow Lake fire in Duchesne County are hoping this storm puts an end to the worries of the fire that continues to spread.
People living in the town of Hannah have been told to be ready to evacuate for days if the fire got too close to town. Locals Brent Bingham and Doug Price tell KSL TV they're hoping this storm puts an end to their worries and maybe even the fire as a whole.
Been praying and hoping and just that it's gone. It finally leaves.
Any precipitation is welcome.
The forecast is calling for rain all day in Hannah today, and the western Uintas could get almost a foot to maybe upwards of 2 feet of snow overnight into tomorrow. The National Weather Service tells me they expect this storm to get the fire under control. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, everything in the green so far. The Dow is up 82, the S&P up 6, and the Nasdaq still up 36 points. Coming up, we'll get a closer look at the expectations for this storm. As we told you, it eases up a little today, but more coming tomorrow. KSL News Time, 9:02.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Your business needs a network it can count on.
Power's out.
Comcast Business has you covered with Wi-Fi backup to help keep your business up and running, even when your power goes out.
Everybody in the warehouse good?
Lights are out, but the Wi-Fi's up. Let's power on.
It's from the company with 99.9% network reliability.
Break room, you good?
Can't microwave my burrito, but Wi-Fi's fine. Let's power on.
Power on with the leader in connectivity, Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Keep your business connected with Comcast Business Internet and Wi-Fi backup. Or get started with reliable internet and advanced security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year contract. Plus, ask how to get up to a $500 prepaid card with a qualifying internet package. Don't wait. Call or go online today. Ends 11/17/24. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 150 megabit per second internet and security edge. EcoBill and autopay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra and subject to change.
Jim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous "You don't need a warranty" warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our "You don't need a warranty" warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
Jazz games are better together. Host an unforgettable night at Delta Center with colleagues, friends, families, whoever. Group tickets are the best way to get everyone together to cheer on the Jazz. Pick from a variety of options for seating, dining, and game day experiences. Start planning your big night at the game by calling 801-355-DUNK, emailing group sales at utahjazz.com, or simply visiting utahjazz.com.
Want to avoid getting sick this fall? Getting your immunizations is a classic approach. You can protect yourself against the flu, RSV, pneumonia, and COVID. Does that sound like music to your ears? Then talk to a doctor or healthcare provider. And visit uptodate.utah.gov to learn more.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. Let's head back over to the traffic center. Is it Jason?
It's Mark.
Mark.
Tim, I'll be with you here for a second. Looks like I-15 is in the slow mode coming into Murray due to an accident. This one about 5100 south, off to the right-hand side. Most of these accidents now that are happening are just probably due to excessive speed. There's a northbound 15 accident, Center Street in North Salt Lake. Car spun around, it hit the wall. That's taking the two left lanes there. Traffic backed up a couple of blocks behind that. A northbound 15 accident near 24th Street in Ogden, and a new one just reported southbound I-15 in Layton right around mile marker 330. So if you're traveling the roads, a lot of wet conditions still exist on most of the major highways and secondary streets as well. Get started on your dream kitchen or bath countertops with special financing from Bedrock Quartz for up to 18 months. Visit bedrockquartz.com for details. That's bedrockquartz.com. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
This rain's going to continue into the afternoon and be much cooler, around 60 degrees today. But what are they forecasting tomorrow? 51 for a high, 37 for a low. And we check kickoff time temperatures down in Provo. Tomorrow night, 42 degrees with about an 11-mile-an-hour wind. Right now in Salt Lake City, it's raining and 54. From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, I'm Tim Hughes. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
A lot is happening in the Middle East right now, and we'll continue to follow what is happening as U.S. stealth bombers attack Houthi weapons caches in Yemen. They believe that there were 5 underground weapons facilities that were being stored in Yemen. Iran-backed Houthis, and our B-2 bombers struck, blew those up, and we're also learning more from what Israeli Defense Forces are saying was an attack on a Hamas leader, killed a Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar, who was in part responsible for those October 7th attacks, was killed in Gaza. We will continue to follow that closely as that story develops. It's just me today. Just Dave, no Dujanovic. Debbie is off. And as we do every single day, we start off with the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here are the 3 things that I and only I want you to know.
Countdown. 3.
Let's start off and look at higher education. We know that tuition has skyrocketed over the last several years. Student loans have exploded. There's more than $1.73 trillion in student loan debt. But the Utah legislature is now turning to state colleges and universities and saying, you're going to have to tighten your belt a little bit, maybe as much as 10%. How about that? A 10% cut for higher education. That's the proposal from Utah Speaker Mike Schultz. He said it may be more, it may be less, but we are going to look at the cost of higher education. Now, what I want to ask him when he joins us at 10:05, is that going to be reflected in our tuition costs? Is that going to help bring down tuition costs? And there's a very interesting little detail here about the soaring cost of administrative costs in Utah's higher ed.
Countdown. 2.
This was a much anticipated interview from Vice President Kamala Harris. Has been accused, perhaps rightly so, of not taking on the tough interview. She did recently have an interview with 60 Minutes, but largely it was built around showing up on podcasts, friendly interviewers, Stephen Colbert, Howard Stern. But yesterday, she sat down with Fox News' Brett Baer, and it was, at times, extremely contentious.
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. For example.
And that was the pitch to conservative listeners that typically listen to Fox News. Now, this is obviously in contrast to when she was on The View and said that she can't think of really anything that has happened under the Biden-Harris presidency that she would change. She pivoted in this interview and said she will be bringing her own policies and focus. We'll learn more and listen to more of that interview coming up in just a little bit.
Launch countdown 1.
Now, as we were talking about student loan debt, sure, there may be a higher education cut. There's going to be a diet perhaps put on Utah universities, but let's talk about student loan debt, how much you're carrying. What are you doing right now? Are you paying it back? Or has all of this student loan forgiveness plan from the Biden administration thrown you up into the air? You're not quite sure what to do with your student loans. Well, you may have just hit the lottery because President Joe Biden just forgave billions of dollars in student loans.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The launch.
Commence.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
President Biden just announced that he is forgiving $4.5 billion in public workers' student loans. Now, if you're trying to keep track of like what gets forgiven, what hasn't been forgiven, does this affect me? There's no simple answer, folks. It does feel to me a lot like hitting the lottery. Like you're just waiting for your numbers to come up. You're like, come on, I'm looking for lucky 17 here. Because obviously the original plan from President Biden, and he had campaigned on this. He said he was going to offer huge student loan forgiveness when he was elected president. This goes back to 2020. And his original plan was, I'm going to give everyone with student loans, currently with student loans, this wouldn't have affected people in the future, just right now, a sliver of time. The original plan was $10,000 or up to $20,000, depending if you were Pell eligible. If you received Pell Grants, then you would have gotten $20,000 of your student loans forgiven. Well, that was the initial plan. Obviously, it runs into a bunch of problems, lawsuits, and it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court looks at the total cost. It's going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars. And the Supreme Court rules that this can't be done. You can't just wipe away $10,000 to $20,000 of student loan. That would have to come through Congress. So that gets set aside so that the Biden administration pivots and says, okay, well, we're going to address it in a little bit of a mishmash, hodgepodge way. And instead of blanket forgiveness for everybody, they started changing the way they administrate these loans. So they started saying, okay, well, I can't make a wholesale change here, but maybe we can say, all right, for this group here that's been paying on their loans for 20 years, we can forgive the remainder there. And they start choosing these little areas of the administration of the loans where they are able to forgive them. And so far, they've been able to forgive somewhere between 150 and 175 billion in student loans. Now, there's 1.73 trillion in student loans. So as much as 150 or 175 billion sounds, in comparison to the total student loans that are out there, it's a portion of it, right? It's not the wholesale changes that they were looking for, but still, this latest forgiveness will be $4.5 billion in student loans. It's going to affect more than 60,000 borrowers. Now, when we come back, I want to get your phone calls because I want to hear what your experience has been like over the last 4 years as you're trying to deal with your student loans? Have you been making payments all along the way? Because student loans, there was a pause on student loans where you wouldn't accrue any more interest. I want to hear from you, 801-575-TALK. Have you been paying all along the way, interest-free, toward the principal of your student loans? Have you put yourself on a pause and said, you know what, I'm going to wait until some of this shakes out and see if some of this loan forgiveness hits me? I would love to hear your experience and how you're feeling about student loan forgiveness in general. Are you fingers crossed, or have you just been plugging away? 801-575-TALK. I'd love to hear your personal experience when we come back.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Let me tell you guys a little bit about my soft water experience. Connecticut soft water guys came out to my house because my wife and I hadn't had soft water for a number of years, and we started to see some of the problems that hard water brings. And that's just the normal water that comes into your house. Utah has some of the hardest water in the entire nation. And what we found is the cleaning was a real issue. We were dealing with hard water stains, corrosion, and then we felt it on our skin. So when you take a shower with hard water, you could feel the damage that was happening to your skin. Well, when Connecticut came out to our house, they told us, you'll be able to feel the difference of soft water your very first shower. And sure enough, that's exactly what it did. We could feel that our skin was softer, more hydrated. We wouldn't have to bathe in lotion afterwards. So if you're interested in soft water, let them come out to your house, walk you through all the benefits that soft water could mean to you. 801-576-8600. That's 801-576-8600. They're an authorized Connecticut dealer, or of course you can learn more about soft water by going to the website softwaterutah.com.
Yes, the 2024 election is big.
I approve this message.
But so much else is happening.
Possible property tax increase.
Construction along Bangerter Highway. Budget cuts could impact education.
We'll document everything on KSL News Radio. Start with Tim and Amanda, mornings from 5 to 9. Join the conversation with Dave and Debbie and Boyd Matheson middays. And get the latest on your drive home with Jeff Kaplan 3 to 7. We have you covered in your car at 102.7 FM.
Every year, we seem to have a few people trying to get our free furnace promotion after the sale has ended. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I know you want to save as much money as you can, but that's not how sales work. When they're over, they're over. Lucky for you, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than the end of October, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, don't be one of those people that wishes they had called and taken advantage of our free furnace sale. The estimate's free, and we'll make sure you have all of the information you need to decide if our free furnace sale is right for you. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body?
Huh?
That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So you've got an oil change coming up. You can go farther and save on full synthetic with our oil change special. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic with an STP Extended Life oil filter for just $35.99. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Winter fun starts at the Utah Snowmobile Show at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. October 18th and 19th, Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy.
It can be really hard to figure out how much home you can afford. At least it used to be until our friends at UCCU came up with a great idea.
It's Utah Community Credit Union's free home affordability tool. It makes it so easy to know exactly how much home you can afford while you shop for a home.
It instantly shows you your estimated monthly mortgage payment based on the current interest rates. And of course, you plug in some personal information about there. And you can make slight adjustments to it, like your down payment, the income, the price of the home, and the tool will take care of those changes and how they impact your mortgage payment.
And it does all of this without impacting your credit score at all. And that's great because what really distinguishes this tool is that it can explore different home buying scenarios.
You may not know that UCCU is the #1 mortgage provider in the community. And by the way, this doesn't impact your pocketbook either because it's a free tool designed to help you.
UCCU, home buying experts. You can contact them by phone, email, text, or in person.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank. With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. The Israeli military says it's looking into whether Hamas's top leader Yahya Sinwar was killed in a military operation in Gaza. Second, this weekend's cold front will drop temperatures and drop air pressure in your car's tires. Mechanics recommend filling tires slightly more than what the vehicle manufacturer recommends. And third, a new study says hormonal IUDs may slightly raise your risk of breast cancer. We're going to look for a high today of 60. May have already been there because we're headed the wrong way. 54 now in Salt Lake City. Let's get you back over to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Let's talk about the latest round of student debt forgiveness from the Biden-Harris administration. I guess we got to include the Biden-Harris administration now because she's the new presidential candidate for the Democrats. So we're including everybody. So the latest round of student debt forgiveness is $4.5 billion. Now, the blanket forgiveness that Joe Biden was wanting initially, the $10,000 to $20,000, that got struck down by the courts. So what he's done is through the loan approval or the loan collection administration, they've been able to weed out some of these loans and have been able to forgive about $175 billion worth of these loans. This one specifically focuses on the public sector. So if you're a teacher, a firefighter, a member of law enforcement, you have some student loans. If you've been making qualified payments, so if you've been paying your bills for the last 10 years, or at least the last 10 years, then the remainder or a portion of your federal student balance will be forgiven. So the question I had is, how have you felt, and what's your experience been? And I wanted to take phone calls on this. In the last 4 years, as President Biden has tried to forgive loans in many different ways through several different avenues, what have you done with your student loans? Have you kept paying on them the entire time? Have you sat back and waited to see if you hit the lottery? If perhaps his latest round of student loan forgiveness would hit you? Because I will tell you, I would personally be furious if for the past 4 years I'd been paying on my student loans. I pay off thousands of dollars of student loans. And then all of a sudden he comes out and he's like, well, your loan would have been specifically forgiven. Then I would have felt like I would have had just thrown my money away. And I've talked to several people with loans that are waiting for that very thing. They're waiting to see if their number pops up and see if their loans have been forgiven. So taking your phone calls, I wanted to hear from you guys. Again, 801-575-TALK. Please give us a call and let me know what your experience has been with your student loans. Let's start off with Paul in Bountiful. Paul, what's your experience been? What do you think?
Yeah. Hey, Dave. We have 5 children that we put through college, the last one still in college. And they all had student loans. They all paid them off except for one. And he had a much bigger student loan. And this is a fairness issue because his student loan was not a federally based or federally backed student loan. It was a private student loan. And those are not even being mentioned by President Biden, Harris. And so if it turns out that any of these loans are forgiven and none of these private loans are forgiven, and private, I mean like, parents loaning to their children or Uncle Dave giving to his nephews and nieces.
Yeah.
Those should all be forgiven if any are forgiven. So this is kind of a fairness issue. So I think the only way to ever do this, if you are going to do it, is only forgive a percentage of all loans. Anyway, that's my take.
Including the private loans. Yeah, that's a great point because so often when we're talking about the federal student loan problem, we don't talk even about the private loans. In fact, the numbers that I was quoting, the $1.73 trillion right now in student loan debt, that is all federal loans. So that's federal loans, and that doesn't even I'm going to have to look it up. Hey, Mitch is producing for us today. Mitch, would you mind looking to see if there's how much money in private student loans is out there right now in the nation? I would love to know what that looks like because, again, so often when I talk about that almost $2 trillion in student loans, that's just the federal loans, folks. Tom in Provo. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. You made a comment a while ago that you would feel foolish if you paid your student loans off and then they were forgiven. Is that right?
Yeah.
Why? Did you not receive the reward for your loan? Did you use that money to get your education and now you've used that education to get your job?
Oh, you're 100% right. No, you're.
So why
made
would you
the deal.
feel that you,
Yeah. No, I made the deal. I would be responsible for it. But I can't help, I guess, the human emotion of it. That's where it would affect me, right? Even though I know it's the right thing to do, it was my loan. I got to pay it back. I'm responsible for it. But if someone's handing out free money, I'm going to be honest, it's hard for me not to take it.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, but it's not free money because that money goes onto the backs of somebody else.
Yeah,
so you're saying,
exactly.
I got my education, and now the restaurant worker is going to pay my education for me, or I don't know who pays it. But it all comes out of somebody.
You're right. We're all paying it. No, you're 100% right, Tom. No, I could not agree with you more. I think you're absolutely right. This is why I need the folks in Washington to not offer me chocolate cake for breakfast because I'm going to eat chocolate cake for breakfast. Don't offer me delicious things that are tempting because I will take it. And the reason I would take it, the reason I took the stimulus money, the reason I take that, because I know eventually I'm going to be paying it back. It's going to fall on my shoulders. It's going to be my taxes that have to address it. So that's how I justify it. But Tom, you're absolutely right. If I'm taking that loan on, I'm responsible for it. Mike in Daybreak. Mike, what's going on?
Hi, Dave. Thanks for taking my call. I enjoy your show. So I had roughly $10,000 in undergrad and then about $75,000 in grad school loans. And most of the undergrad was paid off before grad school, but I paid off the grad school loans in 12 years. And I feel like I learned some good lessons on budgeting and money management. 3 years later, in 2021, I put a 10% down payment on a new home in Daybreak. So I feel like it benefited me, but where's the money going to come from if you just forgive? It's got to come from somewhere. And I'm not a big fan of socialism, but you got to pay these professors and colleges and universities, and you just can't pull this money out of thin air. Someone's got to pay for it. So I'm not a fan of handouts and free tuition.
Mike, I appreciate the phone call. Man, we are running out of time. Let's try to squeeze one more in there. Steve in Orem, can you give me a quick thought?
Well, maybe the quick thought, it is a little longer, but I'll try. I have two children that have student loans, and my first inclination when this all came up, even though I don't agree with the socialistic ways in which our government's run, I said, don't pay them because they're not being charged interest. Now, do I agree with that? No, because someone has to pay them. And right now, it's really in a turmoil because they get emails. They don't know what's going on. My one son, I think both of them actually are starting to pay it off again. But it's in such turmoil, no one really knows what's going on. They
And
get
I
emails.
think
They look
that's
online.
no, you're right.
It's a mess.
Yeah, and I think that is the problem that so many people are dealing with. It's just we're in limbo. We don't know exactly what it is. There's pauses and that just kind of pop up. We just had one recently. There was a several-month pause as they were trying to figure out some of the issues that were going through the court, so you didn't have to pay back, and now it's restarted again. Zach, I'm sorry we couldn't get to you in Bountiful, but yeah, sure enough, it's limbo, and it's confusing, and it's frustrating, and I think we're just watching the student loan crisis explode. Let me just give you one last number. Back in 2006, we had about $500 billion in student loan debt. Now we're approaching $2 trillion.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes. Let's look at some of our top stories this hour. Temperatures are dropping today and tomorrow, and you can expect the air pressure in your tires to do the same. Reese Carter with Big O Tire says the best thing to do when the weather gets cold is to slightly overfill your tires.
Anytime the cold weather moves in, it will always make a tire basically shrink, so it will really set off the air pressure. The best thing to do in the wintertime is run at least a couple pounds above what even the manufacturer recommends on the vehicle.
He says to make sure to fill a few pounds over what the vehicle manufacturer recommends on the vehicle. Our top national story now from ABC News. A senior Israeli official tells ABC News that Israeli defense forces are investigating whether Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar has been killed during an IDF operation in Gaza.
The only thing we do have is a statement from the IDF saying, during IDF operations in the Gaza Strip, 3 terrorists were eliminated. We're checking the possibility that one of the terrorists was Yahya Sinwar. At this stage, they say the identity of the terrorists cannot be confirmed. In the building where they were eliminated, there were no signs of the presence of hostages in the area. The forces that are operating there are continuing to operate with the required caution. More details to follow.
That is ABC's James Longman reporting. Your money at this moment still in the green across the board. The Dow is up about 0.4 with a gain of 162. The S&P up 0.3%, up 17. And the NASDAQ is up this hour by 82 points. Coming up, we get a little break this afternoon from this rain, but it comes back after midnight tonight and really gets after it tomorrow morning. We'll check the forecast next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Transform your old, outdated kitchen with half-price granite. For a limited time, half-price granite is offering special pricing starting at $25 per square foot installed. That's lower than most big box stores. These prices are some of the lowest around. Granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, all starting at $25 per square foot installed. Call 801-486-1700 or visit halfpricegranite.com. Half-price granite, affordable luxury.
Now's your chance to relax and rejuvenate like never before with a customizable Bullfrog Spa. This week at your local Bullfrog Spa's factory store's Peaceful Life sale, you'll save up to $2,000 off MSRP. Plus, get a free premium water care upgrade. Experience personalized therapy and stress relief with Bullfrog Spa's exclusive patented Jetpack therapy system and make your relaxation goal a reality. Hurry in. The Peaceful Life sale ends October 20th at your nearby Bullfrog Spa's factory store.
Bullfrog Spas. Peaceful body, peaceful mind, peaceful home.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow. We're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
As we approach the end of October now, you need to start planning ahead for all of those great occasions. Now, we've got Halloween at the end of the month. We've got Thanksgiving, all of the holiday Christmas celebrations and New Year's. Make sure you've got that reservation all set, locked down, ready to go at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And if you're thinking of a company party, if you're looking for a great gift, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse can take care of it. They've got special rooms for that company gathering, but you do need to make your reservation right now. And a gift card to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Who wouldn't love that? 2 locations, Hotel Park City, and of course in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple. They have got it all. The steaks cooked to perfection, seafood and poultry, those side dishes and desserts. Make sure this holiday season you are set and ready to go at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Hotel Park City, downtown Salt Lake City.
Boy, it sounds like we've got emergency traffic and weather together. Brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. Where's the problem?
It's in Utah County, Tim, and if you're headed northbound on I-15, you'll see the accident. They just barely cleared everything out of the center lanes and the HOV lanes off to the right-hand side. Traffic's been stopped and backed up now. This is American, just after you get on the Pioneer Crossing to go northbound I-15 right there at American Fork. Traffic now backed up several miles. It looks like 2 or 3 miles back behind that. Also, a new accident being reported eastbound 80 to 215 west. This is a jackknife semi near 700 North, and it looks like another rollover in that same area being reported. So we're going to check that out as well. Wet roads are still in effect here. You got to keep that in mind as you're driving. The leaves are falling, and so are the prices of Big O Tires. Stop in and save up to $120 on select sets of in-stock tires during our Fall into Savings sale. Big O Tires, the team you trust. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
This rain will continue into the afternoon and get much cooler. We were looking for a high today of 60. We started at 57, and we're down now to 52. Maybe we'll warm up a little bit this afternoon. We'll find out. But right now, as I mentioned, rain continuing, 52 degrees. From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Kamala Harris sat down with Fox's Brett Baer for an interview. And it was last night or yesterday. And there's a few things that I think are worth discussing. I want to play some clips from that interview. And then coming up in the next segment, I want to hear from Taylor Morgan, one of our KSL at Night hosts, and get his thoughts on how he thought it went. Now, the reason this is important, and we don't break down every candidate's interview, but part of the reason I think this is interesting and why I wanted to hear from this interview specifically is Vice President Kamala Harris, once she became the Democratic nominee, did not do a lot of press. Now, does that resonate with a lot of people? Maybe, maybe not. Obviously, working in media as I have for the last 2 decades, I'm hyper aware of this, of who she's being interviewed by, what places she's going to get her message out, because I think it plays a crucial role in campaigns, is to be able to go and not just record a very well-produced video that hits all your talking points, but to have somebody actually challenge you and push back and say, you know what, I hear what you're saying here, but it doesn't match up to what you've said in the past. So it's crucial, I think, to have these kind of interviews, sitting down, even with a contentious interviewer. Now, Debbie Dujanovic is not here today. She's off. But Debbie was an investigative reporter for a very long time, has conducted hundreds, thousands of interviews over the years, and has experienced these contentious interviews, as have I. I've had these contentious interviews because so often when people will join us, it's very easy to repeat some very well-rehearsed, very smooth one-liners, and if there's no pushback, then it just is left unchecked. So I was very interested to see how this would go. And as we get into this interview, one thing that kind of stood out to me, and Kamala Harris, obviously, she just did the 60 Minutes interview. She's starting to sit down more with seasoned journalists. She sat down with 60 Minutes. She did an interview with Dana Bash, with CNN, with Tim Walz. But largely this past couple of weeks has been her going on very friendly stations, programs. Like there was a Call Her Daddy podcast, The View, Stephen Colbert, Howard Stern, Oprah Winfrey. You know, these are interviews that are very, very comfortable, right? These are friendly interviews. So one of the criticisms of Kamala Harris is whenever she answers that she gets asked a direct question, but then answers with a very meandering way. She starts in talking about a story, and the better question is, in fact, so much so that Saturday Night Live had a little skit on this, making fun of the way she answers questions. Let me play you a little bit from last week's Saturday Night Live.
All right, let's play the game. Okay, 100 people surveyed, top 6 answers on the board. Name something that you keep in your glove compartment. Oh, VP Harris.
Steve, look, I was raised in a middle-class family, all right?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, my mother raised my sister and me, all right? Yeah. She worked hard and saved up.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And we had a...
So that's what I was listening for. That's what I wanted to see in this interview, is when she was asked a direct question, would she go off and start telling stories, or would she answer the question? So let me play a little bit from this interview with Fox News' Bret Baier. Right out of the gate, he wanted to ask her about immigration.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people.
Now, the question that was asked is, do you know how many illegal immigrants have crossed over on your watch? And you heard a little bit of that where she goes back in time and tries to set the scene. Harris also was asked by Baier because of something that she had said on The View, morning talk show, where they asked, is there anything really in your 4 years that President Biden has done that you disagreed with? And she's like, I really can't think of anything. So this question was kind of building on that, and where Kamala Harris tries to explain that she's not going to just continue exactly what the last 4 years have looked like.
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. For example, I'm someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C.
And Vice President Harris also explains how she's going to turn the page.
You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
And there was a lot during this interview, about 25 minutes long, where they were talking over each other. Bret Baier was trying to interject, maybe restate the question, refocus. And Vice President Harris said, I'm trying to answer it. You just keep interrupting me. When we come back, I want to talk to Taylor Morgan, who has done a million campaigns in his life that has helped prepare candidates for interviews. And I want to get his perspective of when you were watching this interview, what did you take away from it? Was it reaching an audience for Kamala Harris that she typically doesn't reach? Did she win over in any conservatives, any moderates that may have been listening to this? We'll get his expertise next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
You've heard me say it before, what a difference a day makes. Well, the day that made a difference for me when I started my SOTA weight loss journey, SOTA stands for state-of-the-art weight loss, was nearly 3 years ago. And what a difference that day made. Working with my coach and dietitian, I lost the weight, 37 pounds in 90 days, and I've kept it off for 3 years. I didn't have to worry about the dangerous fat loss drugs. I didn't have to stress about pills and injections. I didn't have to worry at all about the crazy and sometimes dangerous side effects. All because one difference made a difference. So start your What a Difference a Day Makes today with SOTA Weight Loss, SOTA Weight Loss. As I always say when it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey, there's simply no time to lose. There's only time to win. So win and be ready for the holidays, stress-free. You can do it and check it out at sotaweightloss.com. That's state-of-the-art weight loss, SOTAweightloss.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
I'm Michelle Quist, and I'm running for Attorney General. For too long, the AG's office has been bogged down by scandals and partisan politics. Utah deserves an independent Attorney General focused on restoring trust and integrity. I'm an experienced litigator and appellate lawyer, and I believe politics have no place in law enforcement. Let's bring transparency and accountability back to the Attorney General's office. I'm Michelle Quist, asking for your vote by November 5th.
Paid for by Michelle Quist for Attorney General.
There's a lot on the line this election. Your vote is your way to make your voice heard. Based on polling from AARP, Americans 50 and over decide elections. That means you have the power to make the candidates listen and take action on what matters to you. Things like protecting the Social Security you've worked hard for and making sure family caregivers get the support they need. But you have to cast your vote to have your say. That's why AARP Utah has created an election guide with the most up-to-date information about when, where, and how to vote. You can find out about all the key voting deadlines, changes to polling places, and how to cast your ballot. Make sure the candidates hear from you. Get trusted, up-to-date election information at aarp.org/UT votes. That's aarp.org/UT votes. Paid for by AARP.
Beehive Plumbing now offers premier service. 10 years of coverage on both parts and labor. Call or visit beehivepremier.com for expert experience every time.
At Common Spirit Health, we don't just see a cancer diagnosis. We see you, and you don't have to do this alone. We believe you should be surrounded by your people, so you can keep them close while you get care close to home. Supported by our care team from diagnosis to treatment and beyond, and strengthened by treatment tailored to you. Because there's no one-size-fits-all approach to cancer care. Find cancer care with human kindness close to you at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Exciting news! Master Electrical Services has joined Mountain Home Services.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple. There are lots of mortgage lenders out there, so why choose Fink and McGregor? Here are some good reasons. We are a broker. That means we can shop loan terms on your behalf, including loan programs, rates, and closing costs. We make it easy. We can take your application within a few short minutes, either on the phone or in person, on our fast application website, 4minutemortgage.com. We can help sift through options to find the best solution for you. This can include loan programs, credit fixes, or loan strategies. We are fast, really fast. Most loans close within a couple weeks. Start to finish, we are here for you. Apply today at 4minutemortgage.com. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, West Jordan police are asking for the public's help identifying a man they say robbed a Golden West credit union near 6700 South Redwood Road yesterday afternoon. Second, the Salt Lake County Council at-large seat is up for the election, and one hot topic among the candidates is the multi-million-dollar public safety bond. And third, a group of people trying to save Japantown is cheering the news that Abravanel Hall will also be saved, saying it's part of the cultural backbone of the area. We're going to shoot for a high today of only 60 degrees, and right now with the rain, it's 52 in Salt Lake City. Let's get you back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
David Dujanovic.
Let's talk about this interview that Vice President Harris had with Fox News' Brett Baer. And I wanted to bring Taylor Morgan into this conversation. And Taylor, I wanted to get your reaction. I played some sound clips, and as I watched this interview, there was obviously, right out of the gate, a lot of contention. There was back and forth, Brett Baer trying to interrupt her and refocus the question or restate the question, and Vice President Harris was getting frustrated, saying, "You keep interrupting me, and I'm trying to answer your question." When you were watching this, again, Taylor Morgan of KSL at night, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, Dave, first, before we go to my reaction of the interview itself, I want to set this up by talking a little bit about some of the strategy and stagecraft that went into the interview by the Harris campaign. Now, according to various reports that are coming out today, the Harris campaign was supposed to be at the Fox News studio for the interview at 5 p.m. sharp. Now, there was a time constraint with this interview. Fox News wanted to air the interview live without any edits, but to be able to do that and provide the full 20 to 25-minute interview for the Harris campaign, they needed to start rolling the tape no later than about 5:10 or 5:15. Vice President Harris didn't actually arrive to the Fox News studio last night. She arrived at 5:17 p.m., Dave. So a very intentional move by the Harris campaign to essentially give Fox News and Brett, the host, as little time as possible to prepare for the interview. They ensured that there would be no edits and that the interview itself would not be able to go on beyond 20 or 25 minutes. I thought that was a really interesting tactic by the Harris campaign. Now, I do want to give Vice President Kamala Harris some credit here for taking on what is obviously the riskiest, most confrontational interview to date in this campaign. She's been receiving a lot of criticism for ducking and dodging and not doing interviews like this in potentially unfriendly venues. So she took a risk. However, her campaign managed that risk, I believe, in a way that set up an even more contentious interview for Kamala Harris on Fox News last night. So knowing that, knowing kind of the setup for this interview, I really do think that kind of frames and colors the contentious nature of this interview. Dave, I came away from this interview having watched it. I didn't hear any answers to any questions from Kamala Harris. Now, I want to be neutral. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt if I can. All I heard, Dave, was a lot of fighting and arguing about answering, not any answers to questions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you would hear that is he would ask a pointed question, like right out of the gate. It was, do you know how many illegal immigrants have made it across the border and been released on your watch. Do you know what that number is? And and she would start explaining, like, hey, on the first day in office, we tried to address this. He's like, do you just know the number? So there were some of these things where she was trying to answer in maybe a roundabout way. And as Brett Baer, I thought, was trying to pin her down, that's where she got frustrated and said, hey, I'm trying to answer. To your point, she was trying to answer the answer and the follow-up.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a mess.
Well, of course, Dave, we know it. Anyone who has watched a Kamala Harris interview knows that she takes a very, very, very long time to answer even the most basic questions. That she really, when she's asked a very pointed, specific question, rather than providing a direct answer, a yes or a no or a number, she rather goes back to her biography, and she goes down a very long and winding road with the answer to seemingly very basic questions. Now, again, I want to be as fair as I possibly can, Dave. The problem is I don't believe Kamala Harris has good answers to these questions, at least from a campaign sense. Perhaps direct answers may do more harm than good when it comes to communicating with voters. So that could be a very intentional strategy by the Kamala Harris campaign to actually not provide succinct answers and instead try to go down with a more circuitous, biography-based answer that will ultimately eventually get interrupted by an interviewer, and then Kamala Harris can always default to complaining about not being able to answer. That seems to be her default response now. Dave, I felt like half of this interview was simply Kamala Harris asking to finish a very long-winded answer, non-answer.
One storyline and one question, a line of questioning I found very interesting, goes back a couple of weeks ago when she was on The View. So she was making these more of a lighter stop with interviewers, The View, Colbert, Howard Stern. And they asked her if there was anything she would have done differently than Joe Biden has in the past 4 years. And she said this on The View. She said, there is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that had impact. There's not a thing that comes to mind that she would have done differently. And Brett Baer asked her that question, and this was her reaction.
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. For example, I'm someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C.
Is this a significant backtrack?
Well, it is a backtrack. I would say, Dave, it is a direct contradiction. I think in a venue to an audience that is going to generally be friendly and pro-Biden, such as Oprah Winfrey or The View or Howard Stern, right, Kamala Harris is going to tell listeners that she would be a continuation of the Biden White House, the Biden presidency. Yet here on Fox News, she is trying to distance herself from President Joe Biden and claim that she would not be a continuation of the Biden White House. And here is my number one concern, Dave, with Kamala Harris. Again, trying to be fair, trying to be just honest and call this as I see it. Kamala Harris has never received a single vote at any point in the process running for president up until now. She never got through a Democratic primary. The Biden administration essentially hid her away from public view in the Eisenhower Executive Office building for the last 3.5 years. Voters do not know who Kamala Harris is, what she would be like as president, and what her priorities would be. And it is even more confusing today for Kamala Harris herself to claim that she would not be a continuation of the Biden White House, because that is the only real context we have for her as a politician and as a leader. If she's not going to be a continuation of the last 4 years, Dave, I have no idea what to expect from a Kamala Harris White House.
Taylor Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. A host of KSL at Night. You hear him often. Also a partner at Morgan May Consultants, has done a great deal of media prep with candidates, has worked on a number of campaigns and issues. So, Taylor, thank you for your expertise.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes with a look at some of our top stories this hour. We begin with breaking news. We're hearing about a deadly crash in St. George on I-15 at the I-70 junction. All northbound lanes are closed and are not expected to open until noon, so do expect delays there. As of last count, there are about 1.75 million people registered to vote here in Utah.
We'll expect somewhere around 90% of those back statewide. So I think we'll have a really solid turnout this year.
Ryan Cowley is the Director of Elections in the Lieutenant Governor's office. He says over the last month, about 23,000 additional people have registered to vote. Cowley says anyone who's unsure about their registration can check it at vote.utah.gov. Now our top national story this hour from ABC News, a Homeland Security Department review of the Secret Service after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, is out.
Beyond the specific failures cited at Butler, this report paints a devastating picture of an agency not up to the task, lacking in self-reflection, and desperately in need of new leadership. The independent panel, comprised of 4 former law enforcement and national security officials, points to corrosive cultural attitudes that feed into a do more with less approach at the Secret Service. Overall, these experts say, as threats have become more dynamic, the service has become bureaucratic, complacent, and static.
That's ABC's national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reporting. Your money at this moment still doing all right out there. The Dow is up 145 points, the S&P with a gain of 24, and the NASDAQ this hour is up 129 points. Coming up, a quick look at the forecast. We'll have one more stormy day and much cooler tomorrow as well. KSL News Time, 10:02.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Everyone on the road is trying to make it to their destination safely. You can help by staying aware of the large trucks and buses around you. They take longer to stop, have large blind spots, and make wide turns that require caution from other drivers. It takes all of us working together to share the road safely. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Giving the gift of time during the holidays is a hallmark of the season, but the need for kind hearts and an extra pair of hands is here all year long. You Serve Utah is encouraging Utahns across the state to pledge now to serve those in need in the coming year. You and your family will help spread the holiday spirit long after the holidays have passed. When will you pledge? To sign up, visit www.userve.utah.gov.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world. Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture. And then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day. We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know, but most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
We still have an emergency traffic situation we need to check on. This look brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. Mark, still not cleared out, huh?
No, this is on the 215 West Belt at 700 North. They've got a jackknife semi. The big problem here is that he hit the wall and it burst one of his gas tanks. So you've got diesel fuel all over the freeway. Fire crews on the scene now looking at the backups past 2200 North. If you're trying to make your way off of Legacy or from I-15 west to 215 there, you're going to run right into that. I would stay on 15. Also an accident in Ogden, southbound 1524th Street. They just brought in the heavy wreckers for that one. That's got some traffic backed up behind it as well. Fall is upon us, and Murdoch Hyundai is offering 1.99% for 5 years on the 2025 Tucson. Murdoch Hyundai in Logan, Linden, and Murray, MurdochHyundai.com. Mark Christiansen, the KSL Traffic Center.
Rain's going to continue into the afternoon, much cooler. We were only looking for a high today of 60. We'll see if we can get there. We started the morning at 57. Tomorrow's high 51 and a continued 70% chance of showers. We'll get a little clearing this afternoon, but right now raining in Salt Lake City and 52 degrees. From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, I'm Tim Hughes, reminding you to listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
So Debbie Dujanovic is off today, so I'm rolling solo. Just me. No Dave and Dujanovic, it's just Dave. Just me. So I appreciate you tuning into the show. I'm looking outside, and what a day. It is dark. It is gloomy. It is rainy. Are we finally getting a little bit of fall weather? It sure looks like that, but as the water pours down, I know that there is a water symposium tomorrow. House Speaker Mike Schultz is joining us. And that was originally what I thought we were going to talk about, Speaker Schultz, until I saw this story from the Salt Lake Tribune that says that, hey, Utah colleges, you might need to tighten that belt up a little bit. You've proposed as much as a 10% cut to Utah colleges, and I thought, okay, water's going to have to wait, and we got to talk about this because I don't like dieting, but I like when other people diet. I'll be honest. So what is this? What's going on?
Well, Dave, first off, thank you for having me on. I'm super excited to be here. I feel really bad Deb's not here. Give her my best wishes, will you please?
Yeah, for sure.
And you mentioned it's a gloomy day, but let me just say this, Dave. This is better than sun shining because we need the water here in the state of Utah. So to me, this is better than any bright sunny day when we see the rainfall, and we need it and grateful to have it. But yes, let's get to higher education. And I just want to point out that, and a lot of people miss this in the article, but the goal in this is a cut and reallocation inside of higher education. And that is a really important part.
Okay, what does that mean? A cut and a reallocation?
Yeah. So at least that's what we're hoping for, is for the reallocations. But look, let me describe it this way. When I came into government from the private sector, one of the most frustrating things is seeing how inefficient government operates. And, I think we do a pretty good job here at the state level to put pressure on the state agencies to operate more efficiently. We're really always questioning, making them go through exercises where they cut, where they would cut it, things like that. But for some reason, higher ed has always been left out of this. And if you look at inside of higher ed, there is a lot of inefficiencies inside of higher ed. And then there's also a lot of room for growth and areas where we need to do better in. And so the goal behind this is to cut in those areas where there's inefficiencies and then grow it in areas where we're lacking. And I'll just give you an example of that. So administration costs at some of our universities have skyrocketed over the last 9 years, in some cases doubling what inflation has been. We have one university that they've, over the last 9 years, 143% growth in administrative costs per student. 143% growth in 9 years. That is just astounding, okay? That's some of the inefficiencies that I'm talking about. We have a lot of programs in every one of our universities that are only producing 1 to 3, 4 graduates per year. And we have multiple programs spread across the state like that of the same program. And so we need to act like a system. We have 8 great universities across the state. Let's combine some of those programs that are only graduating 1 to 3 kids per year and combine them and only offer them, let's say, 1 or 2 state institutions. Those are important programs that we continue to need, but that is very inefficient for a whole program to be stood up to only have 1 or 2 graduates per year out of that program. But on the flip side of that, we have a huge nursing shortage out there in this, not just the state, but across the nation. Do you know how hard it is to get into nursing school? And so those are the areas we need to expand and grow. And so those are just a couple small examples. I could go on and take up your whole show talking about different examples, but that's what we're talking about here is let's cut in the areas where we're not seeing a lot of success in and grow and put it towards where the needs are to meet our economy and to meet what the citizens need and do what's best for the students. And actually, if we do this correctly, it'll actually reduce the cost of tuition in the state and reduce the cost of money at what it costs to go to school.
Does this fall on the university president's shoulders to identify which degrees are most valuable, which are leading to the best jobs out there? And does this add or give them the flexibility to maybe adapt and contract some programs that aren't turning out the best jobs and then expand others?
My goal through this is to have a collaborative process, working closely with the university presidents, working very closely with the higher ed board. I think probably I want to say it probably falls more on the higher ed board than it does the university presidents, but absolutely the university presidents play a huge role in implementing whatever we come up with. But and they also play a huge role in determining what it is that we come up with. And so I hope we can work together collaboratively to get to a good spot. Look, I think if it's just the legislature making the decision, we're probably not going to get it right. But if we work together with the higher ed board, with the university presidents and the legislature collaboratively, I think we can get it right.
I just recently saw that enrollment here in Utah, and we've seen across the country college enrollment dip and tank in some areas, but actually here in Utah, at least this year, it's jumped up 3 or 4%. What is the expectation? What do you think? Are we going to be able to provide the quality of higher education if enrollment continues to expand, or do you expect it to start following national trends at some point?
Yeah, so we are expanding, and we will have high growth for another couple of years, but we it depends on the horizon when you're looking at, but in a 5 to 6 year period, we actually start to decline. And that's why it's so important to get ahead of this and to get ahead of this. If we do this right correctly, I really think we're just going to set us up in a place where we can actually be more successful once we see those enrollment growths declining. And Dave, I want to talk about another really important thing in this as well. And this is really started by Representative Karen Peterson and Senator Ann Milner, but they put out a program to start getting our kids and our students through higher ed faster. If you talk to almost everybody that has got a degree from a higher ed institution, they will tell you that they took a lot of classes that they didn't feel like they should have taken or was a waste of time. Well, let's reduce some of those burdens. Let's start getting a lot of our degrees, instead of taking 4 years to get a degree, let's get it done in 3 years. I actually had a very exciting meeting with one of the university presidents yesterday, where they said, you know what, I think we could maybe have a goal to get 40% of our engineering programs to have the opportunity for kids to get those completed in 3 years. Could you imagine the cost savings and how much better off our kids would be, our students would be, if they can complete and get the same degree in 3 years versus 4 years? it's a win-win. And you look at the cost of higher ed across this nation and certainly student loan amounts, like we've got to do something to get ahead of it. And so that's part of this goal as well.
House Speaker Mike Schultz, thank you for joining us. I was fascinated by this story, and I will look forward as this plays out, as we're looking at perhaps a tightening of the budget, perhaps a 10% budget, but it would be this cut and then reallocation in higher education. But more than anything, it's to take a tough look and essentially audit what is going on in higher education, as we have seen tuition prices explode over the last several years. Speaker Schultz, thanks for joining us. When we come back, do you ever loan out your car? Sure you do. You've borrowed somebody's car, you've lent yours out. Do you know what happens if someone gets into a crash? Whose insurance does that cover? What are the risks? We'll dive into that conversation, because I know you've borrowed a car before, and I know you've lent one out. But here are the risks up next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
If you've tried to lose weight before and you've done it on your own, or maybe you do that January thing where I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work my guts out, and then 2 weeks in, you're done, and you're back to some of those old habits. Let me tell you about Salt Lake City Fat Loss and why joining a program, and why I chose to join a program, because doing it on my own was not holding me accountable. But when I paid for the program, and I paid for it just like you guys do, when I paid for the program, I wasn't going to cheat. I wasn't going to cheat on the program and pay for it, not get the results and pay the money. It just didn't make any sense. So when I was paying for the program, I was staying on the program, and then I was seeing these huge results with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Many people will lose 20 to 30 pounds in just a month or two. I lost 57 in 2 months, 57 pounds in 2 months with Salt Lake City Fat Loss, and I did it without injections. I did it without any insane workout routine, no surgery, and I saw some great results. So if you're interested, go ahead and reach out to Salt Lake City Fat Loss by going to their website, slcfatloss.com. Use my name. You're going to get a little bonus. Get $200 off the program. Just go to slcfatloss.com.
How far can this Cougar team go?
Retzloff takes the snap, gives LJ into the end zone!
Is the table set for a college playoff berth?
I love the energy and the effort. These guys have it, and they believe in what they're doing, and man, it's working.
First, we need to protect Lavelle's house Friday night. It's BYU, Oklahoma State. Here's special extended pregame coverage driving home Friday at 5:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. 215 on the West Side Belch route remains fairly closed off. There's one lane going by this jackknife semi at about 700 North. Now you're backed up, clear almost to the Legacy freeway where it gets onto 215 there at North Salt Lake. I would advise using I-15 if you can to get by this. There's a whole lot of traffic backed up there, and it looks like they're calling for a heavy wrecker at the moment to remove that. Several other accidents throughout the valley just because of the rain on the freeways. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and there's a good chance you've heard me talking about our free furnace sale. The one where you buy a new air conditioner and we give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it, about $400. Well, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than the end of October. And once I think our schedule's full enough, I got to pull these ads. So don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. The main reason we do this sale is to give you an incentive to help us keep our guys busy when the weather's mild. And thanks to your help, we're able to keep our guys and keep growing. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, you owe it to yourself to at least schedule a free estimate and get all the details about our free furnace sale. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Don't you deserve healthcare you can count on? Well, you can count on United Healthcare with Medicare plans that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. You can enjoy reliable coverage and low out-of-pocket costs with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plans. Made for Utah, trusted everywhere. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today.
Trail mix, beef jerky, mixing all the soda flavors at the gas station soda machine. Snacks are better on the road. The gas is better when it's top tier. And the pit stop is better when there's a dinosaur there. Love the filler moments at a Sinclair gas station near you with DinoCare, our top tier gasoline. Some sweet and salty snacks for the commute and a big green dino for the memories. Find a gas station near you at sinclairoil.com. Sinclair, fill up your life.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, people living near the Yellow Lake fire in Duchesne County are hoping this storm puts an end to that fire or at least gets it under control. It's already burned nearly 33,000 acres. Second, you may see more law enforcement around Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons as they work with UDOT to help make sure people have enough traction on their tires or traction devices to keep them safe in the canyons. And third, President Biden will be in Berlin today to meet with allies on how to resolve conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. We're going to look for a high today, settling in around 60 degrees, and right now in Salt Lake City, the rain continuing in 52. Now back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I'm excited about this story. I want to talk about lending out your vehicle. Do you know what the risks are? Do you know who's responsible if somebody gets in a crash? Well, there was this great article in Bankrate that talks about this very thing, about lending out your car. Now, I'm going to talk to a college student because this is what it was focused on is, hey, if your kids are going to college, they're taking a car, do they know? Do they have a policy? Do you know whether or not they should loan out their car? Hey, I just want to run to the store real quick. Can I borrow your car? Well, Sophia Zeller joined me earlier in the show. Right before the show started, I was able to talk to her. She goes to college in Michigan because my producer's sister, their roommates, she's borrowed her car before. And I said, all right, Sophia, do you know the risks that are out there? What happens if someone gets in a crash? And this is the conversation I had with her. I asked her, first of all, what kind of car do you drive? She kept referring to it as her car and she, and like, did you name it? But anyway, this is my conversation with Sophia Zeller.
She is an oldie. She was my parents' car or my family car before I got to have her. She's a 2007 Toyota Prius.
Does she have a name?
Many people have been disappointed. She does not have a name.
But she's a she. You talk about her. I can feel the love in your heart here. So the big question is, you're one of the lucky few that has a car at college. Have you ever been hit up for a ride? And have you ever been hit up to lend out your dear car?
Many times. Specifically now, I live in a house with 6 other people, and there have definitely been times where they want to do a Target run or a Costco run, and then they're we don't have a laundry machine in our house, so they often ask to borrow it to go down and bring their laundry down to the laundry room. And yeah, many times.
So they're not just asking you, to be personal Uber or free Uber, but they're literally saying, "Hey, can I just borrow your car? I'm just going to run really quick, run an errand, and then I'll bring it right back."
Yep, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay, so what's your reaction? What do you do?
Yeah, so usually I'm okay with them borrowing it, like specifically just to go for the laundry run. A couple of 100 feet down the road, I'm okay with that. What I haven't been comfortable with, and it is interesting because I'm not usually the type of person to say no, but I am not yet letting anyone borrow it to go further than that. And so I often just have to make the time to drive people to wherever.
Do they offer you some money, some gas money, or is it just one of those things where you're just being nice?
I don't often specifically ask, but they do, offer, and specifically also if we're going to go do a little trip, they offer to pay for gas.
So I was learning, I hadn't really thought about this because I've done the same thing. We're talking about college, but I was thinking back on how many times I'll just hit my brother up who has a truck. I'm like, "Hey man, I need to borrow your truck. I'm going to go pick up some furniture. Is that cool?" He's like, "Yeah, go ahead and take it." But I had never looked into or realized what happens if I crash his car. What happens with the insurance? Is it my insurance? Is it his insurance? Have you ever thought about who's responsible if something happens, even in the few 100 feet that they're traveling when they're borrowing your car? Do you have any idea what happens with insurance?
Not exactly, no. But I will say it is a constant thought for me. I definitely consider it very strongly every time someone just takes my car, even just down the road, because I'm a driver. I know the risks.
Yeah, you've been there. You know what the risks are. What does your gut tell you? What do you think happens? Let's say your roommate says, "Hey, can I borrow your car? I want to take it," and they pull out of the parking lot and they crash into a parked car. Nobody's hurt, but it does some damage. What happens? Whose insurance takes care of that?
It would be my insurance that would take care of that, and likely, I know from prior experience, it would go up.
Whoa! What do you mean by prior experience?
So actually, I was rear-ended a couple years ago, not long ago actually. So my parents, they pay for my insurance, and but they decided, and I talked with them about it after it had happened. It was actually happened to be a friend who had rear-ended me, and they said that they would just front the cost because they didn't want the insurance to go up, and they didn't want to make my friend have to pay for it out of pocket because her parents weren't supporting her. And so we just had to get the car fixed. Also because she is so old where any damage is quite risky. It could very easily cost more than the worth or how much the car is worth.
Okay, so you've experienced and because you were worried about the increased insurance costs, you guys just ended up fixing the car on your own, so you didn't go through insurance. Would it surprise you that if you are in a crash, or if you lend out your car and someone's in a crash, that your insurance rates, even though it was their fault, but because you lent it out, that your insurance rates could go up 45%?
Yeah, that would I can't say I knew that much, but I don't know. It does surprise me a bit that it doesn't go on the driver's insurance.
And that was one of the things that surprised me is if they were the ones at fault and they're the ones that crashed it, why wouldn't their insurance take care of it? But sure enough, Don Brinkerhoff just told me something that was a great way to describe it, and I think really explains it, that if someone borrows your car, they borrow your insurance as well. And that was an aha moment for me of, all right, we're done lending out cars, right? But how many of us have done this very thing where we hit up our buddy, our best friend, and say, hey, I need to borrow your truck. If you have a truck, you've done this. You've lent out your truck a million times. I had an old beater, 250,000 miles on the truck, and sure enough, I lent that thing out all the time. When we come back, let's talk to Bankrate, who wrote this story, talked about kind of the pros and the cons, the highs and the lows of lending out your car, and break down in detail what happens if someone borrows your car with your permission and what happens if they borrow it without your permission. I know it kind of sounds like they just stole your car, but there are two different things that happen if they borrow your car with your permission and without your permission. Next.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top local story this hour. With this big shift in the weather, now's the time to prepare for your home for winter before it's too late. KSL News Radio's Michael Commit reports.
Make sure your pipes are well insulated and your roof is leak-free. But also remember to check your heating systems and trim the plants around your home. These are only a couple of the things the Better Business Bureau recommends, but you can also organize your garage around your snow removal gear or even reverse your ceiling fans so they spin clockwise. That way, it pushes warm air in your house downwards.
Be certain to make sure you have enough winter supplies to make it through and update your emergency plan. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Biden arrives in Berlin today for a closed-door meeting with U.S. allies for talks about conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East and other subjects.
Biden will be meeting with the leaders of Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. Many of America's allies are deeply anxious about the possibility of a Trump presidency and what that would mean for not only Ukraine and NATO, but also for trade relations with the United States. Foreign policy experts say that behind closed doors on this trip, Biden will likely be preparing allies for the possibility of a very different administration.
That's ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang reporting. Your money at this moment, things are still in the green. The Dow has gained 136 points. The S&P is up 17 points, and the NASDAQ has gained 95 points. Coming up, more rain. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
We've been telling you about this exciting news from Master Electrical Service as how they've joined forces with Mountain Home Services, which gives you some one-stop shopping for any of your home needs. So you've got your electrical needs, your EV chargers, recessed lighting, all of that is taken care of. But now that they've joined with Mountain Home Services, you can add in HVAC, that heating and air issue taken care of with Mountain Home Services. Plumbing, again, Mountain Home Services, one-stop shopping. And it all comes with this upfront pricing guarantee. There are no hidden fees. So when they come out to your house and they give you a bid, and who hasn't been bitten by bids in the past where they promise one thing and then they charge you another? There's that upfront pricing guarantee from Mountain Home Services that gives you a 100% satisfaction guarantee. And now, as a little bonus, in addition to all those other things they take care of, how about fireplaces? And as you look outside and it is rainy and gloomy and dark right now, is there anything that sounds better than a brand new, beautiful, toasty fireplace? Give them a call. Reach out to Master Electrical Services, it's Mountain Home Services. They've joined Master Electrical Service. So call Mountain Home Services at 801-543-2222. That's 801-543-2222. Or check them out online at mountainhomeutah.com.
I'm Brian Tedesco, CEO of Blaupunkt Americas, the pioneers of the car stereo. Today, we're not just about sound systems. We are revolutionizing the e-bike scene with Blue Dot Bike. Thanks to AmericanEagle.com, our online presence now features a dynamic e-commerce website that showcases the quality and affordability of our foldable e-bikes. And our collegiate e-bikes, just perfect for the college fanatic. These e-bikes offer a new way to experience freedom on two wheels, no matter your age. When we needed a top-notch website to match our cutting-edge e-bikes, we turned to AmericanEagle.com. They made the impossible seem easy, tackling digital challenges like pros. Check out the Blue Dot Bike website to see AmericanEagle.com's amazing work in action. Need the best in website and digital marketing solutions? AmericanEagle.com is your go-to. They've been a game changer for us, and they can be for you too. Visit AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB-NOW-1. That's 877-WEB-NOW-1.
At Macy's, we're proud to be local and support local. Carrying local products and produce is important to us. We are proud to support our local growers and bring peak freshness to you and your family. To make shopping local easier for you, we have added Utah Proud tags beneath local products. As you shop our stores, look out for the tags as you shop and show your pride for local Utah companies and growers. Thank you for shopping local yourself by shopping at Macy's. Macy's, happy shopping!
Gear up for your hunting season with the Shields Hunting Sale event, running now through October 20th. Take advantage of great savings, like $300 off Vortex Fury HD 5000 rangefinder binoculars, $200 off Leupold VX5 HD scopes, 40% off First Light Cypher clothing. Get a $150 gift card with purchase of Seekins Havoc PH2, and discover so many more in-store and online. Save on your favorite brands, now through October 20th at Shields and Shields.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Mark Christiansen.
Well, we still have emergency traffic on the West Side Belt Route behind this semi that jackknifed at 700 North. If you are trying to make your way southbound on 215, you're backed up all the way almost to the Legacy and 215 interchange there. I would advise taking I-15 if you still can. Now, they're in the final stages, it looks like, of trying to get this cleaned up. First, they had the fuel spill, and now they brought in the heavy wrecker to try and get this semi out of the way, and the wrecker itself is blocking the entire freeway at the moment, so it's closed off for a second here. Just huge delays in that area there. Also, southbound I-15, 24th Street in Ogden, that's backed up to 21st Street, and they've cleared the accident southbound 15 right before University Avenue in the Orem area, but you still have backups back to about 800 North in Orem. BYU Giving Cougs Day is October 15th and 16th. Donations of any size support scholarships and inspiring learning experiences for diversing students. On Giving Cougs Day, participation matters. Visit give.byu.edu/Cougs Day. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll get a little break from this rain this afternoon, but it'll be back tonight. A high of 60 degrees today. Tomorrow, even cooler, and some chances of a little bit of snow in some areas tomorrow. Right now, it's 52 degrees and raining. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Are your kids allowed to share their car, to lend out their car, let their friends drive it? Now, we were speaking the last segment to a college student that has a car and gets hit up all the time by her roommates. Hey, can I borrow your car really fast? I want to go do some laundry. Maybe we'll make a quick Costco run. And I asked her, I said, all right, Sophia, what do you do when people start asking to borrow your car? Does it concern you? Do you know what happens if they get in a crash and what happens with insurance? And this is what she said.
I will say it is a constant thought for me. I definitely consider it very strongly every time someone just takes my car, even just down the road, because I'm a driver. I know the risks.
You know the risks, and you still do it. And she allows them to go do their laundry, lends it out occasionally. But what happens, and how bad is it for you if you lend out your car and someone gets in a crash? There was this great article from Bankrate talking about this very thing. Shannon Martin joins us right now. And Shannon, the angle that I thought was particularly important was this permissive versus non-permissive use. So it's if someone asks you to borrow it and you say yes, what happens if the worst happens and they get in a crash? If they've asked for your permission and you give it, what happens?
That's a great question, and it's important for whether you're a college student or just a regular driver to know how this permissive use clause works. So permissive use basically means that your insurance company will extend coverage that you and the drivers on your policy have to any other driver that you give occasional permission to borrow the car to. So if Sophia lets her best friend drive the car down the street to the laundromat and her insurance company has a permissive use clause, her friend will be covered just like she's covered. But some insurance companies do not have that clause, and anyone who's not listed on the policy is not covered. And that's when things can start to get very dicey because her policy won't pay out for that accident. And if her friend doesn't have insurance, then no one has coverage, and then the owner of the car might be financially responsible.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and obviously, I know that if I get in a crash, typically my insurance rates will go up. Does the same rule typically apply?
It does, but it's really going to depend on who has coverage. So if the friend has their own insurance policy or are listed on their mom or dad's policy, what would happen is your company would pay for the accident and then subrogate to the driver's insurance policy and get reimbursed. So your policy probably will not see a sharp increase, but you might lose some incident-free discounts. But if that other driver does not have insurance and your insurance company foots the whole bill, then your policy will be surcharged, and the surcharge for an undisclosed driver is generally much higher than it is for a driver that they're rating for on the policy.
I kind of chuckle at the next term, the non-permissive use, is where someone's borrowing your car without permission. Some would call that stealing, but what's non-permissive use?
Well, that's kind of the gray area because you're right. So permissive use is kind of referring to people who have access to your vehicle and you would expect them to borrow the car. So let's say your sister comes over, you're going to let your sister move your car out of the driveway. Your best friend's going to borrow the car, but maybe you have someone over that you don't know as well and they take the keys to move the car and they get into an accident. They had no intention of stealing and taking the car. They were just borrowing the car. So that's a gray area. But if someone does truly steal your car and get into an accident, that's actually an accident that's not covered by your insurance company.
Your personal insurance company doesn't cover it. It would fall on the person that is driving?
The liability from behind that accident would not be covered. Your car would be covered. But if someone steals your vehicle and causes damage or uses your vehicle in the act of a crime, those types of events are actually not covered by your insurance.
Oh, that's very interesting. We're speaking with Bankrate analyst Shannon Martin, and we're discussing lending out your car. Now, we were focusing largely on college kids, the few that have a vehicle there and then lending it out. But this is something that happens oftentimes. I had a truck, an old beater truck, that people would borrow all the time. And I'm like, yeah, fine, take it, crash it, I don't care, because it was just such a beater truck. But I guess I didn't realize same rules apply. If I lend out my truck, and when I was lending out my truck and they were to get in a crash, kind of the same rules apply where I would be responsible or my insurance would be responsible for that.
Right. The owner of the vehicle is really responsible for what happens to the vehicle. So from the insurance company's perspective, every time you loan your keys to a friend, you're understanding who that friend is, what their driving record is, what they're going to do with your car. And so in the worst case scenario, you might see a really steep increase to your policy, or your insurance policy actually could get canceled if they don't cover that type of risk.
Interesting. Okay, final thought here. Say my kids take a car to college and they want to share it with a roommate. Is there such thing as a two different policies on one car? Can they like join together forces? Are those kind of policies in existence out there?
Well, they wouldn't necessarily need to. If your kid's roommate is also listed on their parents' policy and your child is listed on your policy, then if the roommate borrows a car from time to time, there's going to be enough coverage there usually to support that situation. You would just have to understand that you don't know what your roommate's driving record is and how they're going to handle your vehicle. So it's more about what you're comfortable with. But if the roommate does not have insurance, that's where it's a sticky situation.
Shannon Martin, thank you for joining us from Bankrate. When we come back, I'd like to hear from you guys, the listeners. Do you lend out your car, or do you borrow a truck often? And have you thought about this? Does this change the way you look at lending out your vehicle? 801-575-TALK. Are you going to crack down and say, listen, no more lending, no more? I'm done with it. No more lending. Because I'm just not worth the risk with insurance. Give us a call, 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to kslnewsradio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
Do you know how many devices the average home has connected to their Wi-Fi network? It's way more than I thought. I actually went home and counted how many connected devices I own. More than a dozen, all to keep me connected to the good stuff, my streaming, my gaming, all my interneting, you name it. Xfinity knows the number of devices we have connected to the internet is growing by the year. That's why they engineered their gateways to handle hundreds of connected devices. Hundreds! For real. Now through October 21st, get Xfinity Gig Internet with unlimited data for $25 a month for 2 years when you add unlimited mobile. Plus, get Peacock Premium, a $7.99 monthly value, included at no extra cost. Make sure your home Wi-Fi can handle everything you throw at it and then some. Visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store to switch today. Xfinity. Bring on the good stuff. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account, taxes, and fees extra. Gig Wi-Fi requires Xfinity Gateway. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Currently $96 a month. Actual speeds vary.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. Did you know that we offer 3 distinct styles of gutter protection? Each one meant to handle a specific leaf problem. You might not even know there are different styles of gutter protection, but there are. And if you pick the wrong one, it could be a huge waste of money. Now, the big gutter guard companies won't tell you this. They try to sell you a one-size-fits-all gutter guard. And it could be completely wrong for the amount and types of trees and leaves you have. Not RGS Exteriors. We understand which kind of leaf problem needs which kind of gutter guard. We'll do an in-depth evaluation to assess the types, locations, and numbers of trees in your yard. Based on that data, we match your home to the right gutter guard. So don't risk wasting money on the wrong gutter protection. For a free evaluation and estimate, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
My name is Brian King, and I'm running to be your governor because Utah is headed in the wrong direction, and we can do so much better. If you're frustrated by politics today, if you feel like politicians aren't listening to you, if you're looking for something different, for a leader who prioritizes common sense and bipartisanship, you have a place with us in this campaign. Join us and vote for Brian King for governor by November 5th. For the better.
Paid for by Brian for Utah.
An emergency can happen any second. Here's a few seconds to think about where you'd go. When you need medical care fast, the closest emergency room is a smart thing to know. Common Spirit Health ERs are your direct path between feeling scared or uncomfortable and feeling better. Find emergency care in your neighborhood at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, today's the day to do winter preparation since tomorrow temperatures will only get to about 50 degrees with possible snow in some areas. Second, President Biden arrives in Berlin today for closed-door meetings with U.S. allies for talks on conflicts in the Ukraine and the Middle East. Third, the Director of Elections with the Lieutenant Governor's Office says if you haven't received a ballot by the end of the week, you should check your registration status with your county clerk. Right now, it's 52 degrees and raining in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave, and Dujanovic.
I did not realize the millions of times I lent out my old beater truck, how much risk I was taking myself. There was this article in Bankrate that really caught my attention, and this was speaking specifically about kids going to college and whether or not they should lend out their car to their roommates and some of the dangers. But this definitely applies, obviously, to everybody, right? If you have a car, you're lending it out, a family member comes into town for a few days, you got an extra vehicle, you're like, hey, just take my car. So who is responsible if something happens, if you get in a crash? Now, this Bankrate article describes it like this, and we're going to take your phone calls here in just a few minutes. 801-575-TALK. How are you feeling about lending out your car? Are you done with it, or are you just very generous and you lend it out to whoever asks? But let's start with permissive versus non-permissive. A good way to think of permissive is if someone borrows your car, they borrow your insurance as well. So if you say, hey, go ahead, borrow my car, that's totally fine. The policyholder gives the other driver permission to use the vehicle. The car's owner's insurance, so if I'm lending it out to my buddy, my insurance typically covers if there's some sort of incident. So if I give him permission, he gets in a crash, then it's my insurance that's going to cover it. Now, if somebody drives my car without permission, so maybe we're all parked in the driveway and someone jumps in to just move the car, move it out of the way so they can get out. So they just grab my keys, they back out my car, but they rear end somebody, then that would be considered non-permissive use, and then their insurance would typically take care of that. So how do you feel about lending out cars? Let's start off with Bryce in Springville. Bryce, where do you lend? Do you lend out vehicles or do you borrow vehicles?
I have done both, but I've been more of a borrower. I have had a lot of unreliable transportation in my life, and I got to tell you, I am grateful for the people that have given me a lot of runway.
Yeah.
I was up in Huntington. I broke down. I went to a farmer and said, "Can I borrow your truck and get home?" He said, "Leave your horse," and he let me take his brand new 2018 Power Stroke home for 2 days.
Stop it.
And then I returned it. I returned it fully fueled. I returned it with beef jerky. I always find out their favorite treat, and then I run it through the car wash. And when you go to the mechanic or whatever, it's just, I got a list of people I go to, and their generosity falls in my favor. But I always return it better than I found it, with the exception of a few more miles.
Oh, Bryce, that's fantastic. Yeah, I've been there too. I've borrowed trucks. That's incredible. You left your horse. your horse was collateral. That's incredible. Matt and Sandy, where do you land on the whole lending out trucks or borrowing vehicles?
Well, I was just going to share a little situation I'm going through right now. Actually, I avoided a broadside collision a couple weeks ago by slamming on my brakes and turning the steering wheel, and this kid kind of hit the back end of my truck, and it's an older truck, so it's still pretty good shape, and apparently this kid didn't have a license. The vehicle was insured, and the cop said he was going to make his mom come pick him up before he could even go, and the insurance company is just saying kind of giving me the runaround, saying that he wasn't on the insurance, and so now I don't want to go through my insurance and have my rates go up, and I'm sure my wife would be very happy about that. So I'm just kind of wondering what I'm supposed to do now, I mean, something like that.
No, it's a great question. If you're insured, my understanding is if it was his fault, then his insurance. So it would, from what I understand from this bank rate, since the kid that hit you would be either permissive or non-permissive, like his mom knew he was driving it, then she would be responsible. Her insurance would be responsible for him. So if he was at fault, then her insurance would have to take care of it, and your insurance rates wouldn't be affected. But hers and the kids likely would be, because he was borrowing it probably with her knowledge, or even if they didn't, it would still fall on their insurance. That's my understanding, Matt. But yeah, definitely touch base with your insurance and find out. But the way you described it, it sounds like you're probably in the clear as long as you weren't to blame. Marcy in Tooele, what's your story?
Well, I just kind of had a question too, but we sold my car to my son, and he has not registered it or gotten insurance on it. And the other day I got notification of a ticket that he had gotten. So I'm just curious how that goes down too, because if he were to get in an accident, would that be my responsibility? Because I no longer own the car, but he hasn't taken care of it.
Ooh, that's a juicy one. I can speak to tickets. Because that's addressed in this bank rate article as well. So if you do lend out your car and someone gets a ticket while they're driving your car, that just is on them. So as long as there's no damage, then that definitely falls on them. Now, if you're paying for the insurance, then yeah, for your kid, then that affects it. Yeah. As far as he hasn't registered it, then that's a great question. If he hasn't registered it, I think it's still your car. So until he does the paperwork, then he's the one that's responsible, or you're the one that's responsible. Thanks, Marcy. That's a great question. Let's go to Terry in Farmington. Terry, what do you do?
Well, we rent cars on Turo, the peer-to-peer rentals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit kind of like Airbnb for cars, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if anyone ever asks to borrow your car, you're like, you know what? We rent it through this app, and you could do it that way. Is that how that conversation goes?
That's how it should go. Yes. So we rent it to people. Right now, I have one local and one out of state that broke one of our windshields. Each two different cars, and one lady, the local lady, won't even answer the phone or won't even answer the text to her to say, "Hey, you broke our windshield. Replace it." And I rent Teslas, so
expensive,
it's a $1,500.
Yeah.
And the Jeep is a $700 windshield. His insurance is a $100 deductible, so of course he wants to go through his insurance. But his insurance told me today that I have to have the Turo denial letter that they won't cover it, and my personal insurance, company insurance, deny it before they'll even consider it.
Oh boy, that's interesting, because I guess I would have just assumed with Turo, because I know Turo does offer certain levels of coverage, and you can kind of take on a deductible, right? Like you can say, hey, they'll have no deductible, but they're going to take like 40% of the booking fee.
Correct. I mean, there's all different levels.
Yeah, and yeah, you can just kind of adjust. But your thinking was
$2,500.
Oh, okay. So and that's even more than the windshield. So you're trying to get them to pay for it through their insurance, and they're just having you run through all the hoops.
But why should I take the ding on my insurance when they broke the windshield?
Oh, that's a great question. No, that's a really good question. And if they're considering it that you're loaning it out or with your permission,
renting it,
yeah. No, it's a great question, Terry. Thanks for the phone call. And I think renting it out through Turo, I don't know if that adds another layer to it, and how that protection works. but I guess maybe at its most basic, you are essentially lending out your car for somebody, even though they're paying you a fee for it. That car still does belong to you, and perhaps I can see the argument being made that you would be responsible for that person on some level. Whether that's fair or not, I can't speak. It doesn't sound fair to me, but it's certainly that's another layer to it, which just makes you realize that lending out your car is not as easy an answer as you might think it is. But thank you, folks, so much for your phone calls. And give it a second thought before you start lending out cars or borrowing them.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. Get ready to see more law enforcement around Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons this winter. They're working with UDOT to better enforce traction laws. KSL News Radio's Vril Johansson has more.
Officials hope this will help traffic flow better through the canyons and keep people safer. UDOT is hosting an event later today where they'll review their sticker program and share more on how they're working with law enforcement. People can have their vehicles inspected for free to see if their vehicles have the right tires with enough traction or have traction devices like chains to help them drive safer in winter road conditions.
You can have your vehicles inspected at multiple vendors from now until the end of February. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Sean Diddy Combs has now been hit with another civil lawsuit accusing him of sexual assault. ABC's senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky reports from New York.
Sean Combs' latest accuser is identified. Her name is Ashley Parham, and she's alleging in a new civil lawsuit that Combs arranged her gang rape as payback for accusing him in the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. Parham says she was at an apartment in Orinda, California in March 2018 when Combs showed up with an entourage and a knife, doused her with lubricant and sexually assaulted her, and then instructed others to do the same.
Combs' legal team did not respond directly to the new allegations, but referred to ABC to earlier statements claiming that those are false and absurd claims. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 192 points, the S&P has gained 19 points, and the NASDAQ has gained 92 points. Coming up, we'll keep you updated on this storm. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Winter is coming, but there's still time to replace those drafty old windows before the cold comes and drives up your heating bill. Just make one call and take advantage of the Advanced Window Products Fall Special. $2,500 off on 10 windows or more, and that's $2,500 off their already low factory direct prices because at Advanced Window Products, they're the factory. Your windows are built in their facility right here in Salt Lake City. You're buying local, and with their lifetime guarantee, you don't ever have to call some faraway state for help. Advanced Window Products is right here, proudly backing up their work. So make one call, save on your heating bill, and get a rebate from the energy companies. Advanced Window Products offers 0% financing. They can even give you amazing new windows with no money down. And don't forget, $2,500 off their factory direct prices, but you have to call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor Mortgages Made Simple. There are lots of mortgage lenders out there, so why choose Fink and McGregor? Here are some good reasons. We are a broker. That means we can shop loan terms on your behalf, including loan programs, rates, and closing costs. We make it easy. We can take your application within a few short minutes, either on the phone or in person, on our fast application website, 4minutemortgage.com. We can help sift through options to find the best solution for you. This can include loan programs, credit fixes, or loan strategies. We are fast, really fast. Most loans close within a couple weeks. Start to finish, we are here for you. Apply today at 4minutemortgage.com. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494 or on the web at finkmcgregor.com, NMLS 289115.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices.
Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips?
But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day active liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to NewNordicUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you, New Nordic.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Mark Christiansen.
Well, the real big problem is on 215, the West Side Belt. If you're headed southbound, 700 north, it looks like they're having some difficulties hooking this big rig up to the big wreckers. They're still taking up most of the freeway. Everybody's sliding by with just one lane, and that has traffic definitely in the parking lot all the way back to about 2200 north or so. As you come off of 215 or Legacy, you'll run right into the back end of that. Also, there's an accident this at the top of the Summit. If you're westbound I-80, a car spun out, hit the wall there. That seems to be the norm on most of the accidents we're hearing about so far this morning. Prep for winter. Get a furnace inspection from a certified heating contractor to check for safety and efficiency. A reminder from Enbridge Gas. I'm Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
Rainy and cool today, getting to 60 degrees, and then it cools off even more tomorrow, only getting to about 50 degrees. We may get a mix of rain and snow in the early hours, and we'll see some inches of accumulation in the mountains. Right now, it's 52 degrees and rainy. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
It's odd to say that tensions are hot in the Middle East because the tensions have been hot, red hot, for a very long time and for decades and hundreds of years. Tensions have been very hot, but there are a few things specifically happening in the Middle East right now that are worth noting, and Boyd Matheson joins us right now. I guess we could start off. There's two specific incidents that happened recently. The first one, let's talk about what many are calling the mastermind of that October 7th attack, Yahya Sinwar, who was killed in Gaza. First of all, so much of the focus has been Israel expanding that war, fighting Hezbollah, but it sounds like they found Sinwar in Gaza.
Yeah, and the way the IDF has been describing this, it was a kind of a routine operation. So I don't know that they were specifically knowing that they had Sinwar in their sights, but it does appear that that is who they took out in that most recent operation there inside of Gaza. And so that's an interesting one. It is one that the United States have said, look, getting him off the playing field will advance negotiations. He's really been the one who said, no, we're not negotiating on anything relating to hostages or ceasefire. And so it will be very interesting to see the dynamic shift there in that part of the region to see if whoever takes his place, because there's always the ultimate and next person up, and to see if that person is more inclined at this stage of the game to say, hey, let's negotiate a ceasefire, let's deal with hostages, or if it's just more of the same status quo.
Because the more the status quo is, we'll put out some feelers and just abjectly reject it on every level, any of these negotiations.
Yeah.
So the next level of this is what happened in Yemen, where it looks like the United States were directly involved in this attack on Yemen. Can you walk us through what was happening there?
Yeah, so there was an attack on basically an arms site, where storage facility, and so this is part of something that's been ongoing in the region for a long time. So this is not new that the United States would do this. This is not out of the ordinary. It's really sort of a preemptive strike as it relates to the war on terror. So this goes all the way back. So this is the United States acting in our best interest to take out terrorists around the world, and those that specifically have intention of harming and hurting U.S. interests.
Oh, so this isn't connected directly to Israel and their defense, because sometimes it can get a little confusing. You've got Gaza and Hamas, you've got Lebanon and Hezbollah, but this is the Houthis in Yemen.
Yes.
And this is not attached to Israel's response, even though they have been attacked by the Houthis as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So this has a lot more to do with what the Houthis have been doing in terms of attacking U.S. military stations in the region, as well as ships, and not just warships, but also cargo ships traveling there in the region. And so this is much more about a broader piece in terms of terrorism. Of course, all roads lead back to Iran in all this, in terms of the funding of it. And one of the interesting questions that we were talking about in the newsroom is the U.S. has been very delicate to dance around this whole idea of declaring war. And what is that? A lot of people say, well, wait a minute, if we're attacking things and they're attacking us, that isn't that war? And the U.S. has been very reticent to use that terminology. We also have a whole separate issue that we need to get to, and that is the use of the war powers. And because of the way Congress has abdicated their authority, and presidents of both political parties have said, well, I'm just going to do this under, a military strike or some other counteroffensive or war on, terrorist, anti-terrorist operation, it's getting pretty muddy. And I think this is an important time to think again about the war powers. That is supposed to start in Congress. Mm-hmm. And the reason the founders did that is because they don't want presidents just going around declaring war or starting wars. A good strategy, by the way. Yeah. But Congress has been so inept and has so abdicated their authority that now presidents, again, of either political party are pretty much able to do whatever they want under that in the short term. But it prevents us from having real debate about what is our national security interest? Where should we be involved? What are we doing in this region? How are we doing it? If we have legitimate things, then let's do it. And let's do it legitimately through the Congress so that there is both funding that is absolutely approved and scrutinized, but that there's also some accountability in terms of what we do and don't do in the end.
And part of what is so incredible is just the change since the Founding Fathers initially set this up of how war was conducted. This was not targets of opportunity where you may have a matter of hours to act instead of sending a naval fleet across, right. the ocean to address something. So what would be that happy medium of where Congress is highly involved, but there is still the ability when a target of opportunity presents itself where you can act quickly, which is not what Congress does well in any way, is act quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think you have to preserve that. I think there are some things underneath the president and the power of the presidency that you need to be able to move quickly. To if you think of a Saddam Hussein, capture moment and what needed to take place there. So there are operations that have to be carried out that way. The interesting thing to me is if you don't have some back-end scrutiny on this, and it's not that we need to go out and tell all our secrets or what our strategy was or what the planning was. You don't have to do that. But you do need to have members of Congress more engaged and more up to speed in terms of what happened, why it happened, what went right, what went wrong, what could have been done better or differently, so that you can get to that different kind of conversation. And it's also been interesting, too, I think particularly under the Biden administration, who has really had this philosophy of de-escalate at almost at any cost, and particularly in this region. And we're seeing now that that's still not working, that the de-escalation, that there are still overtures to Iran in terms of going back to the Iran nuclear deal. But all of this de-escalation has not solved any of the problems. And we're actually seeing the back end byproduct of that now. And whether it's the Houthis in Yemen, whether it's Hezbollah in Lebanon or whether it's Hamas in Gaza, those are all things where if you go appeasement, you're never going to get to the root issue and solve the root cause of the problem.
When it comes to these strategic attacks, and maybe let's go back to the killing of Yahya Sinwar. It was one of those Hamas leaders. Some have called him the mastermind of those October 7th attacks. Do you believe that is there's a possibility, or is the power structure right now, is it disrupted enough amongst Hamas that a more moderate or reasonable or leader could come in and actually negotiate some sort of peace deal?
Yeah, that's a $64,000 question today. And clearly Israel has felt like they are now in a position of strength as it relates to that part of Gaza and Hamas. So much so that they've been able to shift assets, resources, and attention to Lebanon and to Hezbollah. And Israel has really shown, hey, look, we can do several things at once. So don't think for a minute we've taken our eye off you. And today is a great indication of that. I think there were many amongst the Hamas leaders who felt, hey, maybe we're going to have a little exhale moment, a little breathing room to reconstitute or re-strategize and reposition, because Israel is so focused on what's going on to the north, dealing with Hezbollah in Lebanon. But Israel clearly sent the message today that don't think we can't walk and chew gum at the same time when it comes to this kind of strategy. And Israel continues to show that they have a unique ability to target and to take out and to disrupt. That, again, if you're a Hamas leader, or if you're a Houthi leader, or if you're a Hezbollah leader, you're checking everything when you get up in the morning, from your toaster to your walkie-talkie to your pager, knowing that Israel has an ability to reach into those spaces, and they've infiltrated that in an interesting way. And so it will be interesting to see if whoever steps forward as that next Hamas leader in Gaza, if they're more inclined to say, okay, now let's talk, or if it's just hunker down and more of the same.
Boyd, thank you. Look forward to your show today, Inside Sources, which begins at 1. When we come back, the idea of an unpaid internship used to be the standard. Like, I never got paid a penny for my internship, but now there's a bill that just passed this last spring that helps student teachers specifically. No more unpaid internship for the wannabe teachers. Up next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At Capital Wealth Advisors, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the Capital Wealth Advisors team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
It's gonna be 80 forever. Fall is finally here. Listen this week as we track our first bout of chilly weather. Get a reliable KSL forecast every 10 minutes on the 9s, mornings and afternoons on KSL News Radio.
At Macy's, we're proud to be local and support local. Carrying local products and produce is important to us. We are proud to support our local growers and bring peak freshness to you and your family. To make shopping local easier for you, we have added Utah Proud tags beneath local products. As you shop our stores, look out for the tags as you shop and show your pride for local Utah companies and growers. Thank you for shopping local yourself by shopping at Macy's. Macy's, happy shopping!
Utah, the absolute best pricing of the year is happening right now at Paris RV. We're blowing out all remaining 2024 inventory. Save on the Heartland Prowler Lynx 17 BHX bunkhouse, only $14,995 or $171 per month. Or the Forest River Rockwood Freedom Series 1640 LTD, only $9,995 or $113 per month. Got toys? Hook up to the Forest River Vengeance Rogue SUT 23 SUT, only $33,995 or $345 a month.
The show may be over, but the deals are still on at Paris RV.
Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores, we're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH, that sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month, zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
You've heard me say it before. What a difference a day makes. Well, the day that made a difference for me when I started my SOTA weight loss journey, SOTA stands for state-of-the-art weight loss, was nearly 3 years ago. And what a difference that day made. Working with my coach and dietitian, I lost the weight, 37 pounds in 90 days, and I've kept it off for 3 years. I didn't have to worry about the dangerous fat loss drugs. I didn't have to stress about pills and injections. I didn't have to worry at all about the crazy and sometimes dangerous side effects. All because one difference made a difference. So start your What a Difference a Day Makes today with SOTA Weight Loss, SOTA Weight Loss. As I always say when it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey, there's simply no time to lose. There's only time to win. So win and be ready for the holidays, stress-free. You can do it and check it out at sotaweightloss.com. That's state-of-the-art weight loss, SOTAweightloss.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, get ready to see more law enforcement around Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons this winter. They're working with UDOT to better enforce traction laws. Second, Sean Diddy Combs has now been hit with another civil lawsuit accusing him of sexual assault. Combs' legal team says this claim is false and absurd. Third, we could get 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain in the valleys today and tomorrow with the possibility of snow in some areas. Right now, it's 52 degrees and raining in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
It is Dave and Dujanovic, but today it is just me, Dave Noriega. So thanks for joining Roland Solo as we talk about education. This show has been very education heavy, some of the things that are happening. And this one hits particularly close to home because after 25 years of marriage, my wife and I have raised most of our kids, 3 out of 4 at least. Only having 1 kid left is like having no kids. It is so easy compared to having 4 kids. So once, the oldest 3 graduated and moved on, my wife decided she wanted to go back to school. And she went back to school to become an elementary education teacher. So as she's going to school, as she's got her student teaching that comes up next year. So when I saw the story that student teachers are going to be taken care of a little bit more than they have in the past, I'm going to call a victory here on this. Very exciting, like news bells going off. Representative Karen Peterson joins us right now. Covers her district covers a portion of Davis County, which is where I live. Representative Peterson, thanks for joining us.
I am thrilled to be here, and I'm so excited to hear about your wife. That's fantastic.
Yeah, she's been volunteering and working on the side at elementary schools for a number of years, and she just decided to, I want to do it. I want to go all the way in, but one of the concerns we had was about the student teaching experience, because it can be very demanding, trying to balance school, student teaching, classwork, and that can just be overwhelming. You guys have done a little something to address this.
Yes, I'm very excited. So this last legislative session, we passed a bill that I ran that creates a stipend for our student teachers when they're doing their full-time student teaching semester. So previously, as you mentioned, this has been completely unpaid. We've asked them to do this full-time in addition to paying their tuition, figuring out how to manage a classroom and create lesson plans and coordinate with parents and work with special education students. all of that is a lot of work. It's a lot for our student teachers to be doing. And on top of that, many of them ended up having to work or take debt for the first time, or even I heard some crazy stories about students camping out in Logan Canyon the semester they did their student teaching because they couldn't afford rent and to be a student teacher. And we can do better. We can do better for our student teachers.
Oh, hold on. Oh, my goodness. Camping out in Logan Canyon because they couldn't afford housing? My goodness.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, or riding their bikes all winter to their student teaching location because they knew they couldn't afford their car and student teaching, or taking a semester off to earn money so that they can afford to do their student teaching. It's just not what we want. We want our student teachers to have a good quality, first experience doing that student teaching. We want them to stay in the profession, and they're more likely to stay in the profession if they have a quality student teaching experience. So it's good all the way around as far as recruitment and retention of new educators.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when you are doing your student teaching, it can be so overwhelming. You, quite frankly, you just don't have time for that second job or a side hustle, because it is so all-consuming with that student teaching experience. What do you have to do, or how do new teachers tap into this?
Yeah, so the State Board of Education has on their website an application that your wife and anyone else that's going to be doing their full-time student teaching semester can go in and apply. And then they're provided a $6,000 stipend for that semester that they're doing their full-time student teaching to cover their costs. So they can afford to keep living and then focus on learning to be a quality educator.
There has been a huge push, especially in the last few years, to keep and retain teachers, since many teachers will leave, and we've had this problem especially here in Utah, leaving those first 5 years. Is the hope that this could directly help teachers stay, or are we still dealing with that first 5-year problem?
If we have student teachers do the student teaching experience rather than the internship experience where they're kind of handed the keys to a classroom and just told to go, which is, what some teachers end up doing, and then they get paid maybe half salary or something. We know that at 5 years, 50% of the teachers that did not do student teaching will probably be out of the profession. But 65% of those that do a quality student teaching experience will stay in the profession. And that's a big difference. And when we have really high turnover, it's a real cost to our state, to our school districts, and it impacts our students and the quality of teacher that they're getting. So, this is a good investment for our state in our education system, because it really does invest in our teachers in both getting them off on the right foot and making them feel confident and comfortable and having the resources that they need to feel like they can be successful in the classroom for our students.
We're speaking with Representative Karen Peterson, who ran a bill, and it passed, that would give student teachers $6,000 as a stipend as they're going through their student teaching experience, which obviously relieves a huge burden. How long is a typical student teaching experience? How long does that last?
Usually our student teachers are full-time student teachers for 1 semester, usually the last year of their program.
Okay, so 4 months. And how much is that program? I know we spend billions of dollars on education in a million different ways. How much does this program cost, and how will it be funded?
So it was funded last year at $8.4 million with one-time funding. It's a pilot program because we always want to be smart about, we think these things will help, but we want to know that they're going to help. So it's a 3-year pilot program. We're going to see the retention rates of these student teachers. We're going to see if it improves the teachers' evaluations in their first and second years of teaching, to see if we're seeing a difference in the students that participated in this program. And then we'll go from there. But so right now we're funding it with one-time education dollars that come from the Public Education Stabilization Fund. That is specifically for our school districts and our schools, public schools, to increase the quality of our schools and provide good investment in our education system in Utah.
Is it one of those situations where once that money is used, it's finished, and you kind of draw that line, or is it just going to be funded essentially for as many as qualify in those first 3 years?
Yeah, so we funded at $8.4 million last year. We've had over 450 teachers apply already. We anticipate more student teachers do their student teaching in the spring than in the fall. So we think that probably in the spring we'll have double that amount apply for spring semester. So we know that this year we've got the funding for every student teacher. So this legislative session, I'll be bringing back a bill that will kind of create an ongoing mechanism for the state board to provide to the legislature how many teachers are involved, and then us be able to set that amount and dollar amount and then provide that on an ongoing basis. So anyone that thinks this program is a great idea should let their legislator know that it's something we should continue to fund, and we should continue to support our student teachers this way. It's been very popular so far. Our teachers in the classroom that are mentor teachers are seeing a difference in their student teachers being able to really just focus in on learning to be teachers. And so it's been positive all the way around.
Representative Karen Peterson, thank you for joining us. And you represent that 13th district, which is right in that Davis County area where I live. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, for those teachers out there that they're finishing up their teaching degree, this very well may affect you if you're getting ready to do your student teaching or in the next 3 years, if you expect to do your student teaching. Then there is this program that has passed that would give you a $6,000 stipend. You can find out more on the Utah State Board Education website about this program, but it's the student teaching stipend of $6,000. Representative Karen Peterson, thank you.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. We have breaking news here on KSL News Radio. Israel's foreign minister is confirming that Hamas top leader Yahya Sinwar was killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. A DNA test is confirmed. His identity, Sinwar was one of the leaders behind the October 7th attack on Israel. Election ballots are going out across the Beehive State.
The director of elections with the lieutenant governor's office says if you haven't received a ballot by the end of the week, you should check your registration status with your county clerk or online at vote.utah.gov. He says you can keep track of your ballot starting as soon as it's sent to you.
We do have the opportunity to sign up to get text and email notifications of our ballot. It's one that's mailed, when you send it back in, when it's received, if it's challenged and counted, and you can do that at trackmyballot.utah.gov.
If you're not registered to vote, you can still get a mail-in ballot as long as you register by 5 o'clock October 25th. Don Brinkerhoff, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, the Dow in the green, 172 points. The S&P also up 19. The NASDAQ has gained 105 points. Coming up, we'll get a short break from the rain. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
When I learned that Mountain Home Services joined forces with Master Electrical, I started ticking off all the things they could help me with in my home. Electrical needs, check. EV chargers, generators, recessed lighting, HVAC, your plumbing, you name it, Mountain Home Services can take care of it. And it does come all with that upfront pricing guarantee, which means when they come out and they give you a bid, they're going to honor that bid and not just start tacking on a ton of extra hidden fees, because they have no hidden fees. 100% satisfaction guarantee as well. And now another thing that they've dipped their toes into that they do a phenomenal job with is fireplaces. So if you're thinking about installing a fireplace now as it's getting rainy and miserable outside and you want that heat and you want the ambiance, they can take care of your fireplace needs. All you have to do is reach out to them, 801-543-2222. That's 801-543-2222, or online at mountainhomeutah.com.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
911, what's your emergency? Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son.
On September 12, 1995, McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas.
There was no sign of forced entry. It was just as if McKay had walked out of his own free will.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, feels that justice was never truly served. Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, folks, I'd love to hear from you. Start calling right now, 801-575-TALK. We're discussing this $6,000 student-teacher stipend. Between the $6,000 student-teacher stipend, the $60,000 starting salary, I would love to hear from folks that have decided to go into teaching. And does this make a difference? Is this a difference maker for you as you're going to become a teacher? $6,000 student teaching stipend is the latest thing that the Utah State Legislature has done to encourage folks to go into the profession of teaching. Would love to hear your story. 801-575-TALK.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We are looking so much better southbound I-215's West Belt from Legacy all the way down to I-80. The crash has been cleared. The lanes are open. A little bit of busy traffic approaching the I-80 junction, but nothing like we had just a little while ago. The same for southbound I-15 in Ogden near 24th Street. The rain is easing, although we still have a lot of wet roads and still a lot of smaller accidents on the freeway's main secondaries and our side streets. Winter fun starts at the Utah Snowmobile Show at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. Snowmobiles, winter activity, and more at the Utah Snowmobile Show October 18th and 19th at Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The rain will slow down this afternoon, but then start back up again later tonight, and that will continue through tomorrow, possibly turning to snow in some areas as temperatures drop. Right now it's 52 degrees and cloudy. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We just spoke with Representative Karen Peterson, who represents portions of Davis County, about a new program that the Utah State Legislature has decided to invest in, and it's the Student Teacher Program. Now, typically what happens when someone's going to school, they're finishing up in their final semester, before they become a teacher, they typically do a student teaching experience where they go into the classes and they learn firsthand and they have a chance to actually teach the students. Well, typically this student teacher experience has been unpaid. You're paying for your tuition to go to school, and that is how it's been considered. This is just part of the learning education on on-site training. Well, this pilot program, this 3-year program, has now said for the next 3 years, you're going to be paid about $6,000 to be a student teacher. Now, that student teaching typically takes 3 or 4 months, 3.5, 4 months. So it's about $1,500 a month. And I wanted to know, is this the difference maker, or is this just one of many things that the legislature has done to encourage people to get into the teaching profession? Because we have seen a number of studies that have shown that Utah needs more teachers. We've lost a lot of teachers, and typically we lose those teachers in the first 5 years of teaching for a number of different reasons. But we want to take your phone calls. 801-575-TALK. Bart, what do you think?
Hey, I love teaching. It's like something everybody tells me I do well, and I really enjoy doing it. And I wanted to be a teacher back in the day. And so I went through all the requisites at Weaver State, and then I started doing my student teaching, and it was a disaster. I think that the money is good, that's a good way to go. But there is a culture in public education, not just in Utah. I think maybe it's better in Utah, but in the United States in general, that is anti-education in a true sense. I was told by the principal at Woods Cross when I did my student teaching, he was like, I don't really care about history and political science. I don't care if the kids learn that. What I care about is, do you love the kids? And I was like, you are everything that's wrong with education. Our kids need actual learning, not a love fest in school. And I think there's an entire culture around that speaks from unions and tenure and an attitude of entitlism and this constant mantra that teachers are underpaid, when in fact the median teacher makes more than the median worker, not only in the state but nationally.
Thanks, Bart. I was looking at what the starting salary is around the state, and the starting salary for many teachers hovers right around that $60,000 mark. And then with the more years and experience that you have, it starts going up incrementally. And then there is a new plan here in the state that was just enacted that if you're one of those rock star, superstar type teachers, then you can get additional bonuses where you could make up to $100,000 as a teacher. And this new program, again, we've got the $100,000 a year teacher. We've got a $60,000 starting wage. And what the hope is in this pilot program that would give $6,000 as a stipend to student teachers, the question is, will this paid student teaching experience versus an unpaid internship, will that help improve the experience of teachers or prospective teachers so that they don't leave like many do in the first 5 years? And when so many student teachers begin, it is such a financial burden because, again, not only are you spending money for your tuition and getting that education, but it quite frankly is a full-time job. So if you have another job on the side or a side hustle, whatever you might, you oftentimes have to give that up so that you can do student teaching full-time. Or you are doing the student teaching full-time in addition to working a job to pay for all this and to be able to just survive. So the $6,000 would break down to about $1,500 a month during your student teaching. And the hope is that $1,500 a month, that $6,000 total dollars, will help alleviate some of the stress that goes on during student teaching so that you can learn and enjoy that experience versus what could be just a very burdensome experience as a student teacher. But we talked to Representative Karen Peterson just a few minutes ago about how difficult it is and what a tricky balancing act it is for teachers.
So previously, as you mentioned, this has been completely unpaid. We've asked them to do this full time in addition to paying their tuition, figuring out how to manage a classroom and create lesson plans and coordinate with parents and work with special education students. All of that is a lot of work. It's a lot for our student teachers to be doing. And on top of that, many of them ended up having to work or take debt for the first time, or even I heard some crazy stories about students camping out in Logan Canyon this semester. They did their student teaching because they couldn't afford rent and to be a student teacher. And we can do better. We can do better for our student teachers.
Oh, hold on. Oh, my. And hopefully that $6,000 keeps kids from camping out in Logan Canyon. I hadn't heard that story. John in Ogden, what do you think? This is $8.4 million, and it might be more than that over the next 3 years. Is this money well spent?
I think so, and I think it should be more. I mean, the biggest thing that we could ask for is knowledge, education. We ask our teachers to teach us that, but also protect our children, to keep them safe, to work extra on planning. I mean, it's bad enough that after 12th grade you have to pay an arm and a leg for knowledge, which in this country we want everybody to have knowledge so we become a better country. But to whine about what we pay our teachers, especially our elementary school teachers, our high school teachers, with how many students we make them educate, deal with, problems, fights, the whole 9 yards. We need to put more into what we covet in this country of knowledge, and our teachers are the backbone to that, man.
Yeah, and we do. We spend billions of dollars on education. So when I see how much this program would cost, about $8.4 million, to give these student teachers a little bit of wiggle room as they are completing their student teaching, about $1,500 a month, $6,000 in total. John, Bart, thank you for the phone call. When we come back, final segment of the show, I'd like to revisit student loans and what President Biden has done to forgive student loans, some of the pros and the cons of cutting billions of dollars as student loans.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
It's official. KSL Sports is your official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. When the puck hits the ice this fall, you'll hear every goal, every check, and every tension-filled moment on the KSL Sports Zone. Plus, let your voice be heard on the Utah Hockey Club Fan Forum on KSLSports.com, your exclusive home of the NHL and the Utah Hockey Club in Utah is KSL Sports in 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now, when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Stand Strong Fencing of Salt Lake Valley North does more than just build fences. They craft secure, stylish boundaries that protect what matters most. Here with more is owner Tanner Kay.
A strong fence isn't just a barrier, it's a safeguard for your family, pets, and property. The right fencing and gates will keep unwanted visitors out while giving your loved ones the freedom to enjoy your yard in privacy and with peace of mind. More than keeping things out, it's about enhancing your lifestyle. A well-fenced yard is enjoyed much more than one that isn't. A new fence adds value and security to your home. At Stand Strong Fencing, we back every fence with the Stand Strong Guarantee, offering a lifetime workmanship warranty that assures you of unmatched durability and performance. We also partner with the best fencing suppliers in the country who provide material warranties, giving you double assurance that your fence will stand when you need it most. Whether you're upgrading to the latest fencing styles, integrating greenery, or adding conveniences like motorized gates, we've got you covered. Our team at Stand Strong Fencing is eager to meet you and provide a free on-site consultation to help you make an investment built to last.
With handsome craftsmanship and the latest technology, Stand Strong Fencing's process streamlines fence design, installation, and maintenance, ensuring customer satisfaction every step of the way. For more information, visit their website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, Israel's foreign minister is confirming that Hamas's top leader, Yahya Sinwar, was killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. Second, election ballots are going out across the Beehive State. If you're not registered to vote, you can still get a mail-in ballot as long as you register by 5 o'clock on October 25th. Third, officials say false claims about the Federal Emergency Management Agency have damaged FEMA's ability to respond to hurricanes Helene and Milton. Right now, it's 52 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
President Joe Biden, over the last 4 years, has tried very hard to forgive student loans, at least a portion of student loans. His original plan was to forgive $10,000 to $20,000 for everybody that has a federal student loan. That got struck down by the courts and said you can't do that. The Supreme Court actually said that level of forgiveness would have to come through Congress because it was going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars, this kind of blanket forgiveness. So instead, what President Biden has done is he's tried to nibble around at the edges. So make some administrative changes, forgive some loans here and there. So it has been this piecemeal forgiveness. Well, the most recently what he's done is he's forgiven $4.5 billion worth of student loans for public sectors. So your teachers, your firefighters, members of law enforcement, say they've been making payments for the last 10 years or so. They will pay off the remaining part of that balance after a decade. This is how he described it and why he said it. He thought it was important to forgive these loans.
Kamala and I ran to lead this country. We made a commitment to fix our broken student loan system. It was one of the things we both talked about in the beginning. Because while a college degree is still a ticket to a better life, that ticket is too expensive.
That ticket, college, is expensive. And I'll address what the Utah State Legislature is trying to do with that here in just a few minutes. But to go back to the loans and student loans, 320,000 Utahns have federal loans right now. There's about 3.2 million people in total here in Utah. So 1 in 10 people, and this is including kids and babies, right? Our total our total population is 3.2 million here in Utah. 1 in 10 is carrying some sort of student loan. We've got $10 billion worth of student loans here in Utah. Now, if you're thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of money. On average, it's about $38,000. So if you're carrying student loans, it's on average about $38,000. Now, some have way more than that. Some have much less than that. But just to give you an idea of all the loan borrowers there, that would average out to about $38,000. So there's a massive amount of student loan that has been taken on here in Utah. Now, nationally, there is $1.73 trillion in federal student loans. There's hundreds of millions of dollars in private loans. And President Biden is trying to address this and forgive some of this, but every time some of this forgiveness happens and he tries to enact something, then inevitably, invariably, there will be a lawsuit that pops up.
Early in my term, I announced a major plan to provide millions of working families with debt relief for their college student debt. Tens of millions of people in debt were literally about to be canceled, their debts. But my MAGA Republican friends in the Congress, elected officials, and special interests stepped in and sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked it. But that didn't stop me. I announced we were going to pursue alternative paths.
And now we are seeing that alternative path taken, and there's been challenges on just about every plan that he's tried to effect, but it leaves a lot of people in limbo of where they are at. And we were asking for your phone calls earlier in the show to get your thoughts on this piecemeal plan that he has, where I felt it feels like the lottery, where you are just waiting. You're not quite sure if the next round of student loans is going to impact you. And this is one of our phone calls.
So this is kind of a fairness issue. So I think the only way to ever do this, if you are going to do it, is only forgive a percentage of all loans.
Forgiving a percentage of all loans. And he's talking not just about federal loans, but private loans as well.
I have two children that have student loans, and right now it's really in a turmoil because they get emails, they don't know what's going on. My one son, I think both of them actually are starting to pay it off again, but it's in such turmoil, no one really knows what's going on.
And since the pandemic back in 2020, there was several years where there was a pause on the requirement to repay these loans. You could continue to pay off these loans if you wanted, interest-free. But as we've seen over the years, there's still a steep increase in student loan debt that has been taken over. Now, over the last year, it's dropped, nominally from about $1.76 trillion in debt to $1.73 trillion. So there's a little bit of improvement on the total debt that is out there. Now, you heard President Biden talk about how expensive college is. Well, one thing that the Utah State Legislature is looking at, and we just spoke with House Speaker Mike Schultz earlier in the show, and this is because I ran across this article in the Salt Lake Tribune, and it says that the Speaker of the House, is calling for a 10% cut for Utah colleges. So higher education gets about $1.8 billion here in the state of funding. And what Speaker Schultz said is we need to make sure that higher education is running a lean operation, that they're not frivolously spending money, and we want to make sure they're held to a high standard of effectiveness. And one part of higher education that has him concerned is the rising costs of administration.
Administration costs at some of our universities have skyrocketed over the last 9 years, in some cases doubling what inflation has been. We have one university that they over the last 9 years, 143% growth in administrative costs per student.
Two examples that were used in this Salt Lake Tribune article that stood out to me was the administrative costs, and they broke it down per student. So with your tuition and your fees, how much of your education and all the money that you're spending is going to administrative costs. Back in 2015, they use Salt Lake Community College as one example. Your administrative costs would be about $3,000 over the life of your degree. So it'd be about $3,000 in administrative costs in 2015. In 2024, it more than doubled to $7.2 thousand. So from $3,000 to $7,200. At the University of Utah, it went from $4,000 to almost $9,000 when it came to administrative costs. And what Speaker Schultz says is we want schools, we want presidents at the university to make sure they are fine-tuning and accounting for every single piece of that pie, that they're effectively using that money. And he said it may be a 10% cut, it may be more, it may be less, but what we're doing is putting these schools on notice to make sure they are running an effective and lean program. And hopefully, ultimately, it'll save the students money on their tuition. We'll turn things over to Maria Shilaos now.